Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call our meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 41st Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt, and I'm chairing today's panel. Joining me on the panel are Robert Krause, who's actually in the meeting room, and Clay Purvis via Zoom. Our assessor is Merrick Froelich, and our secretary is Crystal Harland. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I'll confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 6 through 9 and 11 and 12 on our docket today. Mrs. Harland, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Merrick Froelich.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, would you please state your full name?
My name is Jared Story.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So good afternoon to you both. Let's start right in. We're at item 6. This is file number 26-1844, 46 Archibald Street. Mr. Story, you are appealing the assessed value today? Oh, you're muted. I'm sorry.
Yes, you were correct, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Froelich, you may begin with your evidence, please.
Thank you very much, Lady Chairperson. File number is 26-1844. Roll number 0605149600. Owners and numbered company 60918 Manitoba Limited. The assessed value that we have for this property is $764,000, and we'd like it for to be confirmed. Parcel uses of warehouse, 2 buildings, 1 premise, 1 story. Buildings built in 1976 and 1983. Wall heights are 14 to 16 feet. Land area is 25,262. And the leasable area is 5,656. On page 2 of my brief, the property owner has been compliant with regards to completing the 2024 mailer. There was an issue with the agent and I don't believe, or I can't recall, if the agent was able to send me the actual mailer with regards to the property, because for whatever reasons, we didn't have it in our system. And subsequently, if you look towards the bottom of the document, he combines the roll numbers. So it makes it for making it very confusing. So if you look at the first paragraph, there's personal information, property information, and then there's the first paragraph here where it shows that they combine the roll numbers. So that's always a challenge. Subject sale history, there are no recent sales, and here's some subject property pictures. As you can see on the top of my brief, it's a building that was a ceramic tile center located in the St. Boniface Industrial Park, the old St. Boniface Industrial Park, north of Mission, south of Nairn, on the west side, on the east side of Archibald, on the bottom of page 3. I have never been to this building. I have never inspected this building. Subject property. We have the leasable area of 5,656 square feet with a rent of $8.18, coming up with a potential rent of 46,266, using a 2.5% vacancy. We come up with 45,109, using a 3% expenses, 425 shortfall. We have the net operating income of 43,155. Our cap rate is 5.65. And our overall value is $764,000. For all these properties today, the agent and I tried to negotiate a settlement, but unfortunately, I was prepared to move enough on a cap rate, but it wasn't enough for the agent's likings. Here are my comparable properties. They're all on the eastern part of Winnipeg. And what my goal here was to try to get areas that was close to the subject property. My properties are listed on Burnett, Nairn, Gillespie, and McKay. All of them are new releases starting from November 1st, 2020 up until October 1st, 2022. The lease ranges from 1 year to up to 5 years. And the leasable areas are in between 4,452 up to 8,900. Wall heights are similar to the subject property. The subject property is 14 to 16 feet, and ours are between 12 and 17 feet range. Effective year built is between 1966 and 1976. And our rents range from between $7 up to $14, $9.94, and $8.50. The subject property on Nairn, the comparable on Nairn, is most similar in nature to the subject property that we're looking at here today. On page 6 is our cap rate study, and it shows the industrial range for cap rates, showing what we have with the City of Winnipeg, the Collier's report, CB Richard Ellis, and Cushman Wakefield. When we do our cap rate analysis, we actually do actuals. We don't do imputed numbers. We do our cap rate studies from the actual mailers that are given to us, just as a final, as a comment. On page 7, you'll see the Municipal Assessment Act. And that concludes my formal presentation, and I am open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Story, questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few. Mr. Froelich, did you say you have not inspected this property?
That is correct.
Okay, to your knowledge, has anyone from the city inspected this property?
I would have to check the notes, Jarrett, and I did not.
Okay, and this is a purely computer-generated, model-derived assessment. Is that fair?
It is.
Okay, so then, so we haven't, the city hasn't visited the property, and the assessment is model-derived. So am I correct in assuming that your work on this file is the rent comparable? So that's what you've chosen? Those are yours?
Those are mine, correct.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so just very quickly, are you aware then, you had alluded to the fact that the owner had submitted the two rolls together based on the fact that it's, I suppose that he sees it as a single economic unit. Is that your understanding as well?
Say that again, please. Sorry.
Would you agree with me, I suppose, based on your comment regarding the owner submitting their information for the two rolls together? Would you agree with me that effectively this property, along with its neighbor at 50 Archibald, comprise a single economic unit? Is that fair?
No, because they're separate roll numbers. So when they have separate roll numbers, they can be sold individually as separate. So I disagree with that statement that it's one economic unit.
Okay. Are you aware that this property is they are they're attached. There's no differential
They're
between
right
the
beside
interior.
each other and they can be separately as separate roll numbers.
Okay, but so you weren't aware that they're actually attached?
You had shared with me that, but I'm answering your question that they are separate roll numbers and separate businesses that be sold off at any time.
Okay, that's fine. Have you reviewed my photos of the interior in my submission?
What part of your submission?
My chief evidence for this brief. Have you reviewed the photographs?
I have to some extent. I'm looking at them right now. Is there
Okay.
anything specifically that I should reference?
Yeah, I just wanted
Are
you to
you
be.
asking Mr. Froelich
Oh,
a question about his evidence, or are we getting into your evidence?
no,
Thank you.
that's fair. Okay, I'll leave that for
Okay,
those
thank you.
comments for my own, but it is, Madam Chair, I'm asking because I'm interested in the leasable area. So I'll move on to the rent comp. So Mr. Froelich, okay, you haven't visited the property and you aren't aware that it's a single economic unit, but if it
Well, I
was.
disagree with your comment that
Okay,
it's a single.
we've heard your
Okay,
response.
thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Okay.
that's okay. But Mr. Story, be careful of what he's.
Yep,
Yeah,
sure.
you're imputing.
I'm just trying to, okay. If the leasable area, Mr. Froelich, of this building was higher, was a larger number, and if it did include the neighboring property, would your modeled rent per foot be lower based on economies of scale?
Well, that's a hypothetical question, and we're dealing with reality. And the reality is that each of these properties, 46 and 50, are in separate roll numbers and separate economic units. So I think I've answered that question.
No, I'm asking a question about the model. I'm asking if your model considers economies of scale.
When they are one large economic unit, not two separate economic units.
Okay. All right. And in terms of your leases here, did you say Nairn was the best one
Yep.
at $14 a foot?
Yep.
Okay. And can you tell me if that is indeed a net rent?
Based on our information, it is.
Okay. All right. Okay. I guess that's all that's here. So, okay, I'll leave my comments for my presentation. Thank you, Mr. Froelich.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kraus, do you have questions for Mr. Froelich?
Well, I can ask this, but I'm interested. You said you had offered a higher cap rate to the applicant. Do you know, like, do you have I mean, was there a discussion around a specific number?
We had discussions with regards to a potential settlement. Unfortunately, the applicant rejected my offers.
Okay. And then my other question just revolves around the mashing of the financial statements. It looks like there's 4 properties mashed together. I've only got to one page. I don't see. It's got 4 roll numbers: 50 Archibald, 46 Archibald, 44 Archibald, 655 Pembina Highway.
Yeah. So hence you can see the challenge that we have as a department.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do the best we can. Because the agent and I had discussions prior to hand, and in fairness to the agent may have sent me the actual information for this property, but I don't recall because there's a lot of work and a lot of things to review. Correct?
Okay. Thank you. Well, my question.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. Mr. Purvis?
I have one small question. The other questions have been asked. I'm just a little confused when I'm looking at the size. The gross floor area is 12 square feet smaller than the leasable area. Is one of those an error, or like where did these measurements?
Usually, because it's an owner-occupied property, they should be exactly the same. Because it's there's no common areas or anything like that. So so that being said, I actually think that our lease, the gross floor area, usually in this situation, so the leasable area, well, it's interesting because the leasable area is higher than the gross floor area. And so I just noticed that right now. And what's interesting is that the agent has accepted our area that we're using on his brief on page 15. So that's something that could easily be adjusted moving forward. I'd have to do my due diligence and look at the old field forms.
Okay, so that's just over the years, different measurements have come at different times.
Something must have happened where someone changed it at a different time, right? Because if you're actually looking at the numbers, maybe someone inputted 4 instead of 6 or instead of 5.
Okay, like I said, my other questions have been asked and answered. I'll turn the floor over to the chair.
Thank you. My question relates to your rent comps at this point. Just looking back at them, you have, I think, what, 4 of them? Let me just get to that page. They're all similar warehouse type properties, Mr. Froelich?
Yep, that's my understanding.
Okay.
Well,
The one
because
on Nairn,
the Nairn property has a combination of a bit of retail and a bit of and warehousing space, but it's such a small area, right? It's not like it's a large building.
and does our subject have a little bit of retail also, or no?
I'm anticipating so, but the agent, because would be able to answer that, because
Okay.
the footprint's so small, right? It's only 5,600, but I'm guessing there's some sort of common area for people to come to the front area.
Okay, so you said the Nairn was most similar in nature
I believe so,
to
yes.
the subject. It's on Nairn Avenue, though, compared to Archibald. Do you see some differences between,
Slightly.
traffic pattern and frontage in front?
Major. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, because they're both major thoroughfares. They both have major bus routes that go by them. So I'm sure the traffic counts are a bit similar. The Nairn Avenue has a bit of a retail component to it, but it's not like there's not any businesses that are doing commercial activity on Archibald. So maybe Nairn slightly higher.
I'm familiar with both of the streets.
Yeah, well,
So-
I'm trying to answer your question. And so my opinion, Nairn's slightly superior, but then again, the rent's significantly superior as well.
Yes, I did note that. I just wondered about the use of it as a comparable, given the different nature of the street itself. Okay, now your cap rates, you've given us ranges for your cap rates.
Yeah.
On the next page, page 6. So this is, I see that all industrial properties, the city gives a range of 5.3 to 5.7. That's in the 20th to 80th percentile, right? No differentiation between investment grade and non-investment grade, or multi-tenant or non-multi-tenant, or anything.
Well, yeah, because when you're looking at our inventory, 55 to 60% of our properties, we don't have rents for because they're owner occupied.
They're owner occupied. Okay.
And what makes this also unique situation, because the building size is so small,
Okay.
right? We don't have a lot of transactions that take place with such small building sizes that occur, right? So cap rates are always a challenge. And from the assessment and taxation point of view, we use actual rents that are in place. We don't use imputed numbers.
Correct. Okay. All right. So the properties that go into your cap rate study is every single property classified as industrial that sold, you would be using that cap
we're
rate.
collecting data, right? We're collecting data, everything before April 1st, 2025, and we're using the data that was accumulated before April 1st, 2025, or when the sale price took place, right? So, for example, if a sale took place in 2022, I'm not going to be using a 2023 mailer, even with regards to expenses. So we're very consistent in that regards.
Okay, thank you. All right, I have no additional questions. Thank you. Mr. Story.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, and just while it's top of mind in terms of that space differential, Mr. Purvis, you'd asked the question to Mr. Froelich. There is a what I'm going to call a low quality mezzanine office space in this building. And it's something of a shipping office. You'll see it in my photos. It is pretty unique. The property is indeed, this is the A&R Carpet Barn, and it is one building. It is attached. It is absolutely one economic unit. And also, Madam Chair, you'd had a discussion with Mr. Froelich about Nairn. I agree with the concept that Nairn is superior, certainly. And my notes indicate that that is a gross lease. So I would ask that the city review that. And obviously that $14 rent is high on its face. And when we looked it up, it does appear to be gross. So I would ask that be that not be considered. Ultimately, we have a what I'm going to call an older functional industrial warehouse in a somewhat difficult and challenging location on Archibald. This is the 100 block, of course. This building was built in 2 phases between 1976 and 1983. I inspected the property for the purpose of our assignment on August 7th, so very recently. I've included some photographs here. But ultimately, Madam Chair, the reason I was asking about the rents and the modeling is because this is indeed a single economic unit, so it would be erroneous to break off half of the building and apply a certain rent and then apply a rent to the other side of it. They're physically attached. It is one open floor space. There's carpet on the one side, and then there's some tiling and other flooring on the other, but the entire operation relies on both buildings, so it is indeed a single economic unit. We are applying $7.50 per foot. I've included my rental comps on page 15. You can see these are properties built between, well, or effective ages that run between 1953 and 1989. The average rent is $6.53. The median rent is $7. I've used $7.50. In terms of the vacancy, we have used 3%. You'll generally see us apply vacancy rates for industrial this cycle. I would say broadly between 3 and 5%. We consider actual physical vacancy. We consider market vacancy. And we also consider collection loss. So that is how we've applied our 3% in this instance. We do not have an issue with the shortfall rate. We haven't calculated it for this property. It is owner occupied, so you wouldn't have the same sort of charges that you might see in a leased property, for example, when it comes to management, that sort of thing. So $4.25 is not disputed, nor are the expenses. We have provided you a standalone capitalization rate study. I've summarized it here. Now, ultimately, I believe the assessor has used a fair bit of broker reports. We've considered the broker reports as well, though they do give us a better. We recognize that those are marketing documents to some degree, but we do use them to track compression and decompression in cap rate cycle over cycle. So we are seeing something of a softening of the cap rate, so decompression. So cap rates that are slightly higher this cycle over last, or at a minimum static, so flat to the previous cycle. We've provided you with 5 what I'll call Class B industrial sales. Using imputed rents is an absolutely acceptable form of deriving a cap rate, as is income in place. So you'll see that we have a mix of the two. And the reason we use imputed rates on occasion is because when a property sells without an income in place, we have to look to market and determine what the expectations for rent ought to be. And that's all in our cap rate study. So this chart will appear in our submissions going forward, and I will ask that my comments indeed carry forward. The cap rate study is there for your perusal, but ultimately the cap rates that we're suggesting, certainly in terms of the range, align quite squarely with what the assessor has submitted from the brokers. So this cycle, we're looking at Class A cap rates on industrial. This is for the best in class product, ranging between 6% and 6.5%. The Class B, which is the majority of our stock here in Winnipeg, most of the industrial supply in Winnipeg is indeed firmly in that Class B grade, and those rates run from 6.5 to 7.5, whereas non-investment grade properties are typically 8% or higher. Now, there are adjustments and additional factors that we consider. We consider wall heights that are less than 18 feet. That would be considered a negative. Wall heights that are less than or equal to 14 feet would be obsolete for most users. Single tenant buildings of more than 100,000 square feet have a much higher vacancy risk and ought to be applied capitalization rate adjustments upward. Land to building ratio, so site coverage of less than 3 to 1 should be considered as a negative. And of course, that speaks to loading or access and egress issues, and that can be a function of poor site coverage. That can be a function of irregular parcels. We'll see one later in our docket today. We have to consider location, of course. We must consider this is, as I've mentioned, this is a challenging location on Archibald. And then we also consider access to city services, which is not a consideration here. But on balance, Madam Chair, we've applied a capitalization rate of 7% for this property. It does have, there's a retail component. It is a large warehouse, again, where they're selling flooring products, so carpet and tile. And of course, retail would have a slightly higher cap rate than industrial, but we have used what I'll call a pretty moderate capitalization rate of 7% for this property, given its quality, given the degree of finish in the interior, and considering the location. So starting on page 24, these are my photos. I took them to show you at this hearing. Page 25, that's the entrance to this retail warehouse. You can see the front door is right next to that older loading door. You can see that some of the insulation is indeed that old aluminum foil insulation. And then you can see the floor space. On page 29, I have a 28 and 29. You can see the degree of office finish. And as I alluded to Mr. Purvis's question, there is that, you can see this, the old staircase that leads up to that mezz office space. And then I don't have it here. It'll be in the next file, but you'll be able to see where the wall is open between the buildings, and that floor is congruent. So it's all one large floor area. It is one building. It is attached. It is a single economic unit and operates as such. There's a compound at the back of this property. So there is a land to building issue on one of the addresses. It is on, sorry, this one is 4.48, but the other is 1.81. So it's sub 2 to 1. So on balance, the entire economic unit, we haven't made an adjustment for low land to building, nor have we considered this a high land to building, because on balance between the two properties, it is adequate. They do have that storage space at the back. So ultimately, given our workup based on our site-specific review of the property, and based on the rates and allowances I proposed here today, Madam Chair, for this half of the building, we're requesting an assessment of $560,000. It's $560,000, and that is again based on the cap rate of 7% and our net operating income of 39,192. So with that, I will leave my comments there, and I welcome your questions, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Froelich, do you have any questions?
I have a couple. My first question is, because Mr. Story referenced it, has the property owner made an application to a replot to make the property into one economic unit?
Not that I'm aware of.
And why is that?
I'm not sure. This is my first time appealing this property. I do know, though, Mr. Froelich, that on occasion, the city will simply merge roles. Now, I want to be careful that we're not talking about the tax roll the same way we would talk about the title or anything like that. The tax roll is simply for taxation purposes. So your comment about whether he would be precluded from selling off half or whatever based on the tax roll is not, that's not accurate. I don't know. I suppose we can ask him to if he would like to do that, but I do know that often, and we've seen this many times, that the city has actually joined rolls without owner consent of two properties that are owned by the same ownership that are directly adjacent. So I can certainly have that conversation with the owner if it might make the appeal more clear. I can certainly do
Just
that.
to clarify the position of the city of Winnipeg and Mr.
Okay.
Story.
This also isn't a point
No,
of appeal. We're not debating
uh,
this, right? So,
No, just,
okay, quickly. Don't spend a lot of time on this.
no, fair enough. I believe there's some inaccuracies in the statement that Mr. Story has made, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank
Is that
you.
fair? Okay. So Mr. Story, you are claiming that the property on 670 Nairn is a gross lease. Do you have any details to dispute that?
Yes, I have the income and expense mailer. It's our client.
Okay.
So yes, I
Okay,
do have the
and so
record.
is that the 2024 income and expense mailer?
That is sorry, I looked at either 24 or 25, but regardless,
Well,
you can see
25
that
would
there
be
are no,
cross-reference.
right, okay, but there are no recoveries there, correct? When you look this up, you would have seen that there's no recoveries.
Well, in front of me, I have the
Mhm.
2024 mailer.
Yep, I do too.
I'm showing it's been
Yep.
recorded in that lease and at $14. So the monthly net lease is $67.58.50, signed on June 1st, 2021, ending May 31st, 2026. And so then my next question is, do you know what the recoveries are? Because I have the
Sorry,
2024 mailer here and I'm showing recoveries.
Mr. Frolig, I'm looking at the 24 mailer right now, and it does not show recoveries at all. It shows a monthly
So
rent.
is there a common, okay, so the question is, who completed the income and expense mailer for this property?
Looks like the property owner.
Okay, see, I have different information.
Okay. It says that
so-
the tenant does pay the utilities directly. Okay,
Are we
so
talking
that
about
is
the
there.
same, we're talking about 670 Nairn, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
I am seeing that they're not showing the recoveries. It says that the tenant pays the utilities direct. That's correct. Yeah, so it may be semi-gross.
okay.
Okay,
So the reason why I'm disputing the applicant's evidence is I'm showing common area recoveries for the Nairn property of 4228 and a property tax recovery of 24,678. But I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
No further questions because I know someone has to leave at 4:30.
okay. Okay. That shouldn't be the reason though. If you have
No,
questions, please
I'm
ask
mindful.
them. Okay, thank you. Mr. Purvis, questions for Mr. Story?
On this issue of it being a common area, I'm looking at your photos. Is there a photo that sort of shows where, because you're saying there is no wall between the two halves, two
That's
buildings.
correct. Yes.
Is there a photo that shows where that wall would have been or what?
Yes,
was?
that photo, Mr. Purvis, will be in 50 Archibald. So on the next file, I have the photo. I was careful to include the
teasing it
photos
out.
only. Yeah, so I took it out for 46, but it's in there for 50. So you will see it. But yes, you'll see exactly where the wall opens up and where the flooring area is. But it's not in the brief for 46 Archibald, but that photo will become clear in our submission on 50 Archibald.
What
Okay, do
photo
you know
are we
when
looking
that-
at, though?
Oh,
Sorry.
Mr. Purvis, go ahead. Sorry.
Do you know when that wall was removed? Like when in the history of these two buildings, we've got a range for the 76 to 82?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I know that the operator has been there since I believe 1983. I would be surprised if there was ever a wall between the two. I would presume that it was likely removed early on, but I don't know. I would be speculating, but I don't think it was recent. I can say that much.
Okay, and I don't want to get too much into 50. We're going to hear about it shortly. Is that sort of more the showroom side of this flooring building?
A little bit, but it also has the back room storage. So in 46, if you look at the photos, you can see from basically, just pull this up so I show you exactly. Okay, so on page 25, that's the front door. And that counter area, that's what we'll call the checkout. And then on page 27, that is the view from that checkout desk to the back of the warehouse. That's for 46. So in 50, some of the backroom storage is included, as well as some showroom space as well. But the point is that they do not operate independently. It operates as a single unit. And the storage is behind the showroom space in 50 Archibald.
So the delineation between retail and warehouse is sort of in this one very blended.
It's all very blended. Yeah, it's retail very loosely in that they have a checkout counter and some what I'll call shipping offices, basically some very small low quality finish offices at the front, and that's where the order processing and checkout occurs. But the goods that are for sale are throughout that warehouse building, and then there is storage in the back as well. So it is blended. It's truly a flex retail storage warehouse.
Like, is it open to the public or is it?
It is. Yep. Yes.
Yeah, I could walk in and buy ceramic.
You could walk in and buy
tile.
flooring, tiling, floorboards, yeah, carpet.
It's not just for contractors. It's
no, it's open to the public.
so that's, I think, my questions. Is it true? Am I putting words in your mouth? Your suggestion, though, is that if it's treated as one space, that the square footage rents would go down for a larger space than with a smaller space.
Precisely. Absolutely. Yep. That's exactly right.
Okay, that's my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Purvis. Mr. Kraus, questions?
I have no questions at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. Story, you did talk about some site-specific factors affecting the cap rate.
Yes.
So you do believe that there are, I was taking notes and writing some stuff at the same time. So this is sort of a different type of property in that it's spread across two. Is that a negative or is that a positive or what is that?
Well, I think that's fine. You would require, I mean, technically, if you were to look at 46 on its own merit, it doesn't have its own backroom storage, so that would be a negative. But I've treated this as a single economic unit. But yes, you're correct. In terms of what has informed our application of the cap rate, we've applied 7%, and it's not as old as it looks, which is interesting. It's from the 80s. It looks like a much older building, particularly when you're inside. But we've adjusted for location and condition. And I think the condition, the interior quality, that's evidenced in my brief. And I also think this is a challenging location. The 100 block of Archibald is well, I'll leave it at that, but it is a challenging location to be certain.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have. Is there any desire for summation on this property, Mr. Froelich?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
The roll number, this is 46 Archibald, is one economic unit. It could be used only as one economic unit. And for valuation purposes today, we have it as one economic unit. The position of the city of Winnipeg is we have done it in the past with regards to replots, but we always want property owners to take the initiative in this regard. And that's important. When we look at the subject property at 46 Archibald, not sort of confusing the matters, but we have a land to building ratio of 4.48 to 1 on this property. So chances are 50 Archibald is going to be lower, but for this property, we're looking at it as one economic unit. So subsequently, that's how we're looking at it. The other comment is with regards to our net rent. I have the details of the lease right in front of me for the Nairn property in question, where the base rent is $40,498. There's other revenues of $710. There is common area recoveries of $44,228 and property tax recoveries of $24,678. So I'm very confident that the rent that I've used as a comparable is not a gross rent, but is net. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Story?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So as we've established, the assessor has not visited the property. The entirety of the workup is indeed model derived. And I believe that to truly get a sense of the quality of this property, to assess it realistically for what is there, it would be, I think it's important that you visit this property. So based on our submission, which is obviously not model generated, but rather based on a site-specific review of the market, interview with the owner, and a full inspection of the property, I would ask that the value not exceed $560,000. And again, we have a primary concern with the location and quality, and that is all in my brief. And you will see, I suppose, as we go through 50 Archibald, that this is indeed a single economic unit. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes item number 6. Move to item number 7. This is file number 26-1845, 50 Archibald Street. Mr. Froelich.
Before we start with this problem here, just give me one sec. Is Mr. Story presenting his cap rate information today?
He did indicate that he summarized it in his discussion, yes.
So I didn't do it for it, but I did provide cap rate rebuttal.
Oh,
And so
okay.
we can
Will
address
that apply to the rest of the docket?
Yeah, exactly. They're all
Okay.
similar.
So
yeah.
how about you go through that? And my apologies, I wasn't aware of that.
Yep,
So,
no worries.
okay, so for this property, we will hear your rebuttal and we'll know that it will apply to the item we just finished.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Froelich, item 7.
Thank you very much. I just may have realized something. Oh, just one. Bear with me here for a sec. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay, just 50. Oh, wow, that's neat. I apologize. I did not print out a hard copy for myself for this property. So I am pulling it up right now. So file number is 26-1845. Roll number is 06-05-149, 5,000. 2027, we have assessed value of $923,000. We have one building that was built in 1972. We have an effective year of 1978. The wall height superior for this property at 18 feet. We have a land area of 12,825 with a plan area of 7,100, which is a part of the discussion, the comment that Mr. Story made last time. And we're asking for the assessment value to be confirmed because, thank you. Property owner, similar to the last property owner did provide us some an income and expense mailer, but it wasn't complete and it was combined. There's no sales for this history, and here's the subject property photo on the bottom of page 3. A&R Carpet Barns, and you could probably see how the two buildings are combined. I haven't inspected this building, but you could clearly see on the top of page 50 how the two units, how they're added up together, right? But like I've stated before, until a replot occurs, we have to do this. So we got to show our due diligence and do them as separate roll numbers, and which is why we view it that way. The bottom is on page 4, is similar to that. Here are parameters. So we have an area of 7,100 square feet, $8.15 to come up with a GPI of 57,865. Using a 2.5% vacancy, we come up with effective gross income of 56,418, 3% for expenses, 4.25 for shortfall. We come up with a net operating income of 53,971. Using a cap rate of 5.85%, we come up with a value of $923,000. Our goal here was to eliminate this appeal. And for the previous property, I forgot to mention, but we've seen with regards to industrial properties that property values haven't gone down in industrial properties. And the applicant was seeking a value which was below the previous assessment. So this is why we're having this discussion today. My comparables are exactly the same. Uh, I think Brookside is a new one, just maybe because it's a bit larger, a larger building. So that lease in place is for 5 years, May 15th, 2023, 77,790 square feet, 16-foot wall height, built in 78. That rents at $8.75. So with that actual lease in place, our 815 rent seems very, very reasonable. We've gone over the cap rate, and that concludes my formal application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Story, questions?
I do, just very quickly. Mr. Froelich, I presume based on our discussion, you've not visited this
That is
premise?
correct.
Okay, and this is all model generated?
That is correct.
Okay, is there any evidence in your submission whatsoever indicating how you derive that vacancy rate of 2.5%?
No, because this this venue or this avenue of presenting appeals is we try to be time efficient, and that would be a detailed analysis, which is a general summary that we have.
So you don't require evidence? Is your submission?
Our evidence is the 2.5%, and I'm under oath, sir.
Right, and there's nothing to support it though, correct?
All the analysis that we do to build the model is our analysis.
Okay. Okay, and in terms of the cap rate at 5.85%, I'm looking here at your cap rate chart. That cap rate would be very close to the 20th percentile. So what is it about this property that is making your model believe that it is among the let's say the top tier industrial properties in the city with such a low cap rate?
The building size.
The building size.
Building size is driving the cap rate.
Okay.
Like if we looked at a situation whereby if we look at it from a residential perspective, are there more bidding wars for a home that's $400,000, or are there more bidding wars for properties that are $1 million? So smaller properties usually have a higher cap rate. Usually.
Okay. So if a property is, for example, 200,000 square feet, it must have an extraordinarily high cap rate by that logic, would it not?
It would have a higher cap rate than the 5.85%. It all depends on a lot of factors with regards to cap rate. It depends upon building height, the year that it was built, lots of factors, Mr. Story. There's not one simple answer to doing evaluation.
Okay, and I'm looking at your chart here. Do you have any sales to support your cap rate conclusions for us to review?
We don't do this because we'll do that at a municipal board if it gets to it. But we do have data and information. And then actually one of the great things that we have here is during our analysis, we both used a similar cap rate story where on 47 Scurfield, and you'll see some of that in my rebuttal evidence, is that your position is very reasonable on cap rate for 47 Scurfield. So I'd like to give the Ryan Group credit
We'll hear that. We'll hear that. We haven't seen it.
But
We haven't seen it.
that's our evidence. So he asked me about evidence. I'm referencing evidence verbally.
Of course. Yeah.
No, my question, Mr. Froelich, was if there are any sales for the ratepayer or the panel to review based on this cap rate that you've applied. That's my question. So if the answer is no, there's nothing for us to review.
My answer was that due to doing 12 hours or 12 appeals within a 3-hour period does not allow for such analysis. And those analyses will take place at a municipal board hearing.
Okay, so no sales for us to review. In terms of the your chart that you've included here, would you agree with me that if this were, let's say, an industrial B, the supporting brokers reports typically run anywhere from 6.5% to 8% on the cap rate? Is that your understanding of what you've submitted?
That's the information that we have here, but then what we do in our analysis is that, we don't know the details behind that. That's a general sort of guideline, and I believe that the analysis done by the major firms don't look at smaller properties that have 7,100 square feet. So we have to develop a cap rate somehow. And so I'm speculating, but valuation is a complicated process.
Okay. And so, and just again, based on what you've submitted here, the brokers do indeed bifurcate the market by quality, by tenancy. So for example, they would say an A class or a B class, and they would discuss multi-tenant or single tenant, but you've applied the same rates across the board with no fine-tuned analysis, let's say, for those discrepancies. Is that fair?
Well, I would disagree with that because when we looked at the previous example, the cap rate for the 46 Archibald was 5.65 and the cap rate for this one is 5.85. So I disagree with that comment.
Okay, but on your chart, to be fair, you're showing a range of 5.3 to 7% regardless of single or multi-tenant and regardless of whether it would be classified as an A or a B, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And I'm sorry, you mentioned Brookside. Is that a trucking firm?
It's a manufacturing firm.
Okay, what's the land to building on that property?
I don't have access to that right now.
Okay. Those are my questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Purvis, do you have questions for the assessor?
I have one as we're talking about all these cap rates, and I don't know if it's something that you can actually answer, Mr. Froelich, but so the city of Winnipeg, we're looking at for this property, it's a 5.3 at the low cap, 7 is the high cap. And the city drops the sort of the worst 20% and then the best highest 20% get dropped from the study. Is that correct?
No, that's not accurate because that's our range between 20th to 80th percentile. We don't drop them. They're still in our system. They're still a part of
but for what we're looking at, we're the highest.
So on that this is showing the range of our 80th to 20th. You know what I mean?
So the Collier, the 3 market studies, do you know if they do that as well? Are we looking at their 20th to 80th, or are we looking?
I don't have access to their data.
So you don't know where, like this, the city doesn't know.
No, when we do our cap rate analysis, we derive our own cap rate, and then subsequently we test to see if we're being reasonable in our valuation process, and based on our test and following IAAO standards, that we believe that we are.
Okay, so we don't know if we're actually comparing apples to apples or if we're comparing apples to oranges.
Well, I don't have access to the data, so I cannot answer that question, Mr. Purvis. Mr. Purvis.
That's my question.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Kraus, questions for the assessor?
I have no questions at this time.
Thank you very much. And I have no questions either, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Story, your presentation, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So as we've established, we are at the A&R Carpet Barn. On my page 2, you can actually see where the buildings connect from the exterior. You can see there's a small gap, but there's actually, well, you can sort of see that building where they connect, but we'll get to that. We're seeking a value of $703,000 for this half of the property. We did interview the owner and inspect the property once again for the purpose of this assignment on August 7th. So my comments regarding the location, I would ask that they carry forward. This is south of the Nairn Overpass. This is north of the corner of Mission and Archibald. So again, a bit of a challenging stretch. Ultimately, we are applying. Right. Lost my place here. Apologies.
I can't hear.
There we go. Sorry. Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yeah, no, I'm back. I was just missing something there. So we've applied a shortfall of 425. That's not in dispute. We've applied non-recoverable expenses of 3%. Once again, we've provided you with our capitalization rate study. We do need to present evidence at this hearing so that the panel can review what we're saying. It's not simply enough to say we've done our analysis and leave it at that. We've actually provided you with some sales, and those sales, of course, do inform our position, indicating the Class B properties should be applied cap rates between 6.5 and 7.5. Non-investment grade properties ought to be applied 8%. There's a very reasonable argument that this property would not be considered investment grade. Mr. Froelich mentioned that the brokers may not even look at a property of this size or this quality or whatever However, we need to use our best judgment. And in this case, we've applied 7%. The rents that we've applied, and I've provided you with rental comps are the same as the previous. Sorry, the page is mixed up here. Apologies. One moment. Trying to find the photos. There we go. Right, so we've applied our $7 rent. And ultimately that gives us an NOI of 49,198, which we then capitalize at a rate of 7%, leading to an indication of value of 702,824, which we then of course round to $703,000. On page 24, Mr. Purvis, this is the photo that I was alluding to. That's where you can see that it's completely open. So that's where the two properties are joined. And that's effectively where the showroom goes from the carpet area to the tiling effectively. So those photos are there for you. And many of my comments will remain the same. We've considered the location, we've considered the condition. We haven't made adjustments for the low land to building. In this case, it's only 1.8 to 1. That's exceptionally low. We start adjusting below 3 to 1. I believe when the city makes excess land calculations, they revert to 4 to 1, which we don't disagree with. That would be standard in industrial. But once we start seeing something below 2 to 1, that gives us some pause. However, we have treated this as a single economic unit. It is indeed one store operating as one economic unit. And on that basis, Madam Chair, and based on some of my previous comments, we do feel that a value of $703,000 is appropriate, and frankly quite moderate given I'll call the condition and the location. And after our site-specific value, we feel very confident that 703 is the appropriate value. So I will leave my comments there, and I'm happy to take your questions. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Froelich, questions?
Panel members, did you get the list of the actual addresses from the agent with regards to the subject property or the comparables used for the analysis?
What is your question, Mr. Froelich?
My question is, Mr.
Specifically.
Story, okay, let me rephrase this, okay? Mr. Story.
This is a question for Mr. Story, not for
Yes.
panel members.
Okay, no, but the point is, it's a question with regards to comparables that the applicant provided me.
On which page? On his
Okay,
rental
so
comparables?
on page 15, Mr. Story has provided 12 comparables without any addresses, showing a range of an average of $6.53 and a median of $7. He's using $7.50. Mr. Story, do you remember the request that I made for 46 and 50 Archibald with regards
Yes,
to
I remember. Yeah, and I sent you the addresses for the comps when you requested them, Mr.
Yep, for
Froelich.
sure. Well, the list that you're providing in your brief is different. So there were 12 comparables in your brief, and you sent me 14 comparables for 46 and 50 Archibald with an average rent of $8. So it doesn't match.
I've submitted. Okay, I'd have to go back and check, and perhaps I'd omitted some of those, but no, we feel comfortable with the 12 that we've submitted here. So are you suggesting I provide you with more information?
You provided me with inaccurate information because
No, I don't believe
showing,
that's true.
okay. So on the sheet that you had provided me,
Yep.
I don't have Sanford listed. I don't have Mandalay listed. And I don't have Midland listed. And then the
Well, I can certainly go back and look at what I've sent you.
I'm just
And if I did,
asking
I
the question.
apologize. I would never not send you the comps, Mr. Froelich. When you ask, I always send you the comps.
And Mr. Story, you're very good with that. It's just an observation that I noticed when I was reviewing my brief last night.
Okay.
Okay. You had mentioned that Archibald's a inferior location. Wouldn't Archibald be a gateway to the rest of the St. Boniface Industrial Park area?
Well, what I can tell you about what's going on down this stretch, and you and I discussed this, I mean, the building right across the street was arsoned. The property right next door is a very, very low grade storage facility, and then directly next door is the refit store. So regardless of where that road leads, what is actually physically there, the built environment in the 100 block of Archibald, I maintain is yeah, I think it's inferior. I don't think it ought to command a higher or premium rent, and it's certainly not comparable to Nairn
So what
as a
would
node.
what would be a premium location in the St. Boniface Industrial Park area that we're looking at? Because if this is so inferior, what would be?
I'm not comparing it to other streets. I'm just suggesting that after visiting this property, seeing the quality of the property, we have gravel lots. This is a tough location. It's certainly inferior to Nairn as a retail node, which you've relied on. So if you think that the 100 block of Archibald is a premium location, that's fine. We'll just have to disagree. But I would suggest you visit the property and have a look around.
Is my last question, is arson an issue only in the St. Boniface Industrial Park area, or is arson an issue in other parts of Winnipeg?
It's an issue in other parts of Winnipeg that have similar concerns.
No other questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Kraus, questions?
Just going on that topic, are there other similar businesses on in that stretch?
So when I was there, Mr. Kraus, the building right next door has vacated, and it is now a very, very rudimentary thrift store. That's directly next door, but that is like somebody, looks like a garage sale, frankly. And then the building to the other side is the Habitat for Humanity Restore, where they sell reclaimed construction goods for, I believe, the Habitat for Humanity projects and that sort of thing. So, and then across the street is a old industrial marking building, and then the building that was arson. So that's the flavor of this stretch. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I was just wondering a little bit further down, like, I mean, it's not just the stretch, it's not contained to one building next door, right? So I was just wondering if there's another similar, maybe a couple buildings down.
Yeah, no, this stretch is pretty tough. It's pretty yeah, it's pretty tough for this immediate vicinity, to be certain.
Yeah. And then my other question just regards the rent. So your rent analysis, is that based on it being, just for clarification, is that based on you looking at it as 46 and 50 as one combined unit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Purvis.
Mr. Kraus's last question was one of mine. I just want to confirm, I'm just trying to look here, and maybe I'm just glazing over as I go through it. The cap rate that you're recommending, Mr. Story, is 8%?
7%, sir.
Seven?
For both 46 and yes. Yeah, 8% would be what would typically be applied to a what we'll call a non-investment grade. Typically non-investment grade properties. This would check many of the boxes. It is the size, as Mr. Froelich has mentioned, is likely non-investment grade. The quality of tenant, this is not likely to lease to what we'll call a credit tenant. This is likely going to be a local operator, which is what we've seen here. There's utility that's derived from a local owner operator. And locationally, it would check those boxes in terms of being a non-investment grade property. But we've tried to be moderate. We've not taken an aggressive position on the cap rate. We've applied 7%, and I think that is very well supported. But it very well could be 8%, based on the argument that it's not investment grade. We've elected to use 7%. I think that's very, very fair.
Okay, that concludes my questions.
Thank you very much. I have no questions either. So, Mr. Story, when it does come to rebuttal, do you have rebuttal? No, you have rebuttal evidence. You do not have rebuttal.
I don't have rebuttal evidence, but I'm anticipating reading Mr.
Okay.
Froelic's. Yeah.
Mr. Froelich has rebuttal evidence, so we need to have that distributed to us.
Madam Chair, I just sent the rebuttal evidence to Mr. Story and people participating on Zoom will be able to find it in the OneDrive, and Mr. Kraus should find it in panel members' evidence.
Okay, I do have the rebuttal. This is 21 pages, Mr. Froelich.
That is correct.
Okay,
You're welcome.
And this rebuttal's for all the properties that
this
we're
will
doing.
That's correct,
apply
yeah.
to all the
It
properties.
was given to me with the briefs that the applicant has provided.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Froelich, with your rebuttal evidence.
Thank you for your time, lady.
Madam Chair, I don't
Oh,
have it.
You
May
don't have
I-
it yet?
No, may I have a copy? I'd like to follow along.
Yeah, of course, you should have a copy. Okay, should be on its way, according to Mrs. Harland.
Okay. We'll refresh.
I'll try that again, Madam Chair.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, I have it now, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Froelich, your document's 21 pages long, so if you could hit the highlights.
Yeah, I will be as quickly as I can.
Thank you. Go
From our
ahead.
perspective, when we're doing cap rate analysis, Mr. Story's provided cap rates from the 2025 assessment period and the 2027 assessment period. For us, while we don't provide a lot of information with regards to cap rates, we tried our best to do a good cap rate analysis. If you look towards the end of page 1, we're showing a net operating income of 95,448. And if you look at page 19 of the applicant's information, and let me just finish this. So what we do in our income approach, we add the lease backs, we add the mortgage payments, we add the bank charges to come up with a total net operating income of 138,575. When we divided it against the $3 million sale price, we came up with a cap rate of 4.62. With the applicant's evidence that is shown here, his income is greater than ours by about $60,000. And then subsequently, a higher income will lead to a higher cap rate. So there's a huge discrepancy between the cap rate that we've come up with and what the agent has come up with. And on page 2, it's just a confirmation that this was a clean sale. And page 3 shows the same thing. Starting on page 4, with regard to the property on 205 Hutchings, page 5, I'm looking at the income that was provided from the 2020 mailer. So the sale that we had for Hutchings was from January 2022. We didn't get the 2021 mailer, but we got the 2020 mailer, and it showed a net operating income of 65,276. Moving down, with regards to adding the mortgage payments and the bank charges, our total net operating income was 149,665 against a sale price of 2,993,000. We have a 5% cap rate, vastly different than the 6.7. So my question is, with regards to the credibility of the document provided by the tax agent, why aren't they using actuals? Maybe because it's a 21 as opposed to 22. But for my set of documents, you know what I mean? $50,000 makes a huge difference with regards to cap rate analysis. And this is why it raises questions for the assessment department. Page 6. What happens is It was income in place for 680 Mission Street. So if you look at the top of page 6, this transaction was between related parties. A derived capitalization rate may not reflect an arm's length market transaction and consequently may warrant minimal reliance in the valuation. And then if you look at the sales verification mailer on number 3, was this sale an arm's length or open market transaction? If no, it was between related parties. So when it's between related parties, we're not going to use this in our analysis. We could go through a similar exercise for 1500 Wall Street. We have 6.525% cap rate. The Wall Street's 8.64. That's a huge difference, and the difference is in income. We're reporting an income of 59,377. They're reporting an income of 82,105. The last comparable that I have from the 2025 cycle is 1 Warman Road. In the Altus document on page 19, they're claiming there is a sale in May of 2022 for $9,564,000 with a 6.27% cap rate, and it's imputed. We would never do this, a cap rate study on this type of property. And then subsequently, if you look at page 9, and actually, so page 9 and page 12, page 10 on my document, where the transfer of land, there's a receipt of consideration for $12,200,000, which is vastly higher than the used for the cap rate study by Altus. I have no record of a sale of $9,564,000, and this is based on the information that was provided to us, from the land titles. Once again, on page 16, on page 12, fair market value at $12.2 million. And so just on the top of page 15, so the Altus cap rate is 6.27%, and the cap rate that we had calculated is 5.23%. And there's a revised table shown on the middle of page 15. So when we're doing cap rates, there's a lot of different ways to do cap rates, and that's why the assessment department shows a lot of flexibility with regards to cap rates. We realize there's an area and range, and we're prepared to look at, we consider all options, but we do our due diligence. So before the sale, cap rates are calculated based on the income before the sale. They represent return on income producing properties expressed as a percentage of the property market value. This means that the cap rate is a measure of the property's unlevered in place income yield, which does not include financing, taxes, or capital appreciation. So what we try doing is we're trying to use data before the sale. We're not using data after the sale. So right now I'm looking at the 2027 information for 1007 Century. They're actually using the mailer and income in place. So the reported net income that we've calculated, just give me 1 sec here, is that we calculated net income of $280,933. And so the sale price is $10.5 million on January 1st, 2024. The question that I ask is, why are they using the 2024 mailer, not the 2023 mailer? Because the sale took place January 1st, 2024, so they should be using a 2023 mailer, not 2024. However, in fairness to the agent, the leases were the same. The leases were in place, so I could understand why they use this. But what's a consideration from our perspective is that we know with the major inflation that has taken place recently, expenses have gone up. Everything's gone up. So in that regards, I understand it. So to me, there's a huge discrepancy between a net operating income of the Century property of $735,521 and what we actually have reported here. So our cap rate here is really low, but not that we would use it, but that's just using our analysis here. Scurfield property. Oh yeah, so this is where I used the net income from. So the net income on the top of page 17 was 225,070,000. And that is, just give me one sec here. So this one here is 1070th century. And then, so that's two even. Okay. 47 Scurfield. So what we're looking for this property here is that when we looked at the data for Scurfield, we came up with a situation where our cap rate and their cap rate, as the cap rate for this property, we had figured it out at the 225,070 divided by the 3.8 million. We came up with a cap rate of 5.92%. Altus is using a cap rate of 6.31%, so that's well within the range. But the question is they're using from the 22-23 mailer in their analysis, they're actually using a rent of $16.05 when the mailer shows the average rent of $14.28. So if you look at this on the bottom part of page 17, from their mailer from December 31st, 2023, they're using $14.28. However, if we look at the Scurfield property and their analysis, which is on, oh, I thought I wrote it here. Just give me 1 sec. I didn't finish it. So it's the agent hasn't have it numbered, but I don't there's a can everyone take a chance to look at the 47 Scurfield, the income and expense mailer that's in the brief from the applicant? Does everyone have it?
We're getting to it.
Okay, yeah. And I forgot to number these beforehand, so I apologize. Or this was the agent's brief, not mine, so I wouldn't have sent that off.
What specific page
Okay, so
or what page of
it's
the income mailer?
It's the income and expense mailer.
So for people who are looking, it's on page 51. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so you could see it's in my document as well that the rent in place as of December 31st, 2023 was $14.28. And then if you look at their cap rate study, which is done near the front of their brief, which is like before all the income and expense mailer from they're showing a workup of using a rent of $16.05. So there's a Collier's listing for a Jarvis property. And then the very next page will be a cap rate study on 201 Scott and 47 Scurfield.
Is that all, Mr. Frolick?
Yeah, so did everyone see the workup done by the applicant?
Mhm.
At $16.05, and when the actuals were $14.28. And you know what? I'm open to questions right now. There's also
Okay, thank you.
yeah, because it understands everything.
Okay,
You get
thank
the
you.
gist of what I'm saying, hopefully.
Thank you. Mr. Story, questions on the rebuttal?
I have a lot of questions, but Okay, let me try and start.
Could we,
From-
sorry to interrupt here, Mr. Story, could we just take a brief recess because I respect that you're gonna have a fair number of questions. There's
Of course.
a lot there.
No, yeah, no.
5 minutes, is that enough, Mr. Purvis?
Yes,
Because
Yeah.
we're right in the middle and we've got 4 more to go.
I know, I just.
Okay,
Okay.
can we please recess for 5 minutes? So we'll return at 2:25 on the dot.
Yes, Madam Chair,
Thank you.
just let me put the,
Welcome back, everyone. We're now going to resume our hearing. We're at the point where Mr. Story is going to ask questions of Mr. Froelich's rebuttal evidence on cap rates.
Wonderful.
Mr. Story.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so, and you can appreciate I've just now received this and I'm seeing it for the first time. So, Mr. Froelich, just to be clear, the first set of comps that you've rebutted were from the 2025 cycle, is that correct?
That is correct, because that was in your evidence in page, let me pull it up here. That was in your evidence in page 19.
Right, okay. All right, and sorry, you said a lot, so I just want to, and we'll have a full written response to your submission, but did you suggest that we ought to include mortgage charges, amortization, and that sort of thing in the NOI when we're developing a cap rate?
Well, I'm not too sure how you developed your cap rate. I know that when we do it is to add it to the net income. We added it to the net operating income, so there's a huge discrepancy.
Oh, okay, does that not, but are you not then, if you're taking the carrying cost of the mortgage, I'm not exactly sure how you're contrasting that from the income stream of the property. That would be a separate an issue that's separate and apart from market value of property, would it not?
Not from what I've learned.
Oh, okay. And you notice though that, and we will firmly disagree with that. We ought not to use amortization and that sort of thing. Now, you're suggesting, I think, that I'm looking at Century Street here. You're suggesting that cap rate is 2.68%?
Well, what we're looking at here is like, I'm just showing that for information. It brings a lot of questions here, but at least with regard to the property, like when you put an income in place here, there was something that was off with regards to the Century one. And so we just brought it here just to show, what they reported here, right? So this is what we're looking at.
No, but you said the capitalization rate equals 2.68%. So is it your assertion that property transacted with a 2.68 cap rate, Mr. Froelich?
Well, the point is, if you take the net operating income that they've reported at $280,000 from December 31st, 2023, this is the mailer, and we're assuming that they're done accurately, and the sale had taken place for the Century property on January 1st, 2024, using the net income of $280,933 against the sale price, which comes up with a cap rate of 2.68. It's a huge flag. And do we have a 2.6% cap rate? No, but I'm saying if we're assuming that the mailer is accurate and correct, and if we take it against the sale price, it would derive a cap rate of 2.68%.
Right, and you recognize that, okay, and I'm looking now at Stevenson, and you're suggesting that that's a 3.61 cap rate? And I think you arrived there, and precisely to my point, you've added in the interest and bank charges. Do you not recognize that that's creating a massive distortion in your calculation?
Well, yeah, but the point is, I have no clue. When we look at that, and I have no clue how you come up with your net income.
Well, you have our full.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to become more reasonable in our approach to valuation, and based on what I've learned, that's what we've done.
Okay, and you'd mentioned something about credibility, which was, and I won't speak to that, but ultimately, when you're suggesting that these cap rates are around 3 and 3.6%, and all of your evidence effectively is based on the brokers Would you not agree with me, for these properties that we're looking at today, the brokers indicate rates of 6.5 to 8%? Is that your understanding of what you've submitted?
What I'm showing you is I'm showing you what I'm looking at in terms of analysis. I have issues with regards to
Not my question, Mr. Froelich. I'm asking you, based on what you've submitted, your cap rate evidence, would you not agree with me? It's right in front of me. Your cap rate ranges for industrial B range from 6.5 to 8%. Is that not correct?
that is our model that we've presented shows that range here. Are we using that range? No. And with regards to credibility of my evidence, I've provided a great example of a distorted sale where we have a sale for 12.2 million and you're reporting a sale of 9.4 million dollars. So that's why I was questioning the credibility of it.
Okay.
None of our
And-
cap rates that we have in our documentation for cap rate analysis is showing that low of a cap rate, and it raises questions. I'm just showing the information that was been provided to us by the information that you have in your cap rate study.
Okay. And the cap rates that you've provided for industrial B by the brokers run from 6.5 to 8%, correct?
That is, as I look at my brief, that is correct, yes.
Okay, so then when you, and have you, and we will have a full response to this now, once you have a chance to digest it. But just out of interest sake, did you develop a cap rate for any of the sales that we talked about today? Do you have calculations?
Yeah, I actually gave you credit, Mr. Story. Our
No,
cap
that's not my
rate,
question, Mr. Froelich. I'm asking if you've actually calculated any cap rates.
yes.
Okay, but we can't see them?
I've answered that question before, Lady
Okay.
Chairperson.
I think those are my questions on the rebuttal at this stage, Madam Chair. I'll need to go through it a little more thoroughly, but we certainly don't agree with the methodology of adding back leasing commissions or mortgage interest. That's simply not appropriate. And just say
Okay,
that for
thank
the
you.
record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Kraus, do you have any questions on the rebuttal evidence?
I do not at this time, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Purvis, questions on the rebuttal evidence?
I do not have any.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions on the rebuttal evidence either. So, Mr. Froelich, do you wish to do summation, please?
You know what? In the spirit of time, I've shared all my information, so no, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Story, do you have?
Yes, just very quickly, Madam Chair, with this property as with the others, we would request that the board give our submission weighted consideration based on the fact that it is based on a site-specific review, including a full inspection of the property. It is not model generated, and we believe it to align quite neatly to our evidence and as well as the balance of the assessor's evidence, particularly when it comes to cap rate. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Let's move on to item number 8. This is file number 26-2289. 1856 DeVries Avenue. Mr. Froelich, when you are ready, please.
File number 262289, roll number 0400317200. 2027 assessed value is $869,000. Properties consist of one building built in 2007. I'm not too sure why they have 2008 as an effective year, but there must have been something, and maybe permits. Wall height's 15 feet. Land area is 16,742. The leasable area is 3,375, and it has a land to building ratio of 4.96. And we're asking for the assessment to be confirmed. Property owner has been compliant with regards to completing their income and expense mailer, as can be seen on page 2. Property sold for $570,000 on January 11th, 2010. And so when we look at that sale and the applicant's request for 629, it raises some flags for the assessment department. There is a lease in place that we have started January 1st, 2024 at $13 a square foot. I have not inspected this property. Here's some overview pictures of it. It's a unique shaped property. It's right on the corner of very close to the corner of DeVries and Sun Valley. And you can see that on top of page 5. And the bottom of page 5 shows a general overview of the property. what we have here, so leasable area is 3,375. We're using a rent of $12.46, coming up with a GPI of 41,715. Using 2.5% vacancy, 3% for expenses, 4.25 for shortfall. We come with a net operating income of 39,093. The agent and I were trying to come up with a value with regards to that would change the cap rate to a higher level. Unfortunately, the value that I proposed to the agent was rejected, so this is where we're at. What I have here right now is I have some comparable properties that are, there's not a lot of comparable properties, not a lot of newer buildings that are built in the northeast quadrant. So this is a general overview of the city. So we have leases in place in mostly the northwest quadrant of the city, minus one on Scurfield from 2021 to 2024. The lease years vary from 2 years to 4 years, and the leased area ranges from 1,680 to 3,500 square feet. So I want to make sure I was within the range of rents. I'm not using rents that are much higher. The wall heights, subject property wall heights 15 feet tall, where ours is a range from 12 to 18. And the effective year built are between 1990 to 1998. And the subject property was built in 2007. We've discussed our cap rate study. I am open to questions. Thank you. And hopefully the panel members notice us a lot faster this time.
Thank you,
Hopefully
Mr.
not.
Froelich.
If I'm too fast, let me know, okay? Because I do.
Nope, that's fine. Thank
Okay.
you. Mr. Story, questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, Mr. Froelich, did you say you have not visited the property?
I have done cursory inspections of this property many times.
What does a cursory inspection entail?
Drive-bys.
The drive-by, okay. So a windshield inspection. You looked at it through the windshield of the car, right? Okay.
No, I've actually walked down that property. I live in North Kildonan, sir.
Okay, and you've been inside?
No, I have not.
Okay, so you walked past it, okay. Are you aware that it's an owner-occupied property?
Based on the information that they provided us, there's a lease in place, so I do not. They have
Okay.
not indicated on the mailer that you could see on page 2 that it's an owner-occupied property. So maybe
Well,
you could share that information with the
sure.
property owner.
No problem. Okay, and we're using a slightly higher rent than you, so you haven't been inside, but based on the nature of what goes on here, do you understand this to be a window and door showroom?
Well, it's called Clear Choice Windows and Doors, so I think that's a fair comment to make.
Okay, and when an industrial property has a higher degree of retail finish, do you consider that, does your model consider that?
Well, the model considers the newness of the building. This building was built in the 21st century, so it's arriving at a higher rent because it's small in size and also because it's relatively a newer building in the market.
And your model applies a higher rent to retail properties than it does to pure industrial, does it not?
It depends. There's no generic answers in our field.
Okay, well, just based on your chart, it would appear that is correct, is it not? Generally, model does apply a higher.
What chart are you referencing to?
Your cap rate chart on your page 9.
Okay.
Right. Retail typically has a higher rate.
Okay. Well, when we're looking at retail and we're looking at office properties, the ones with the highest appeals and the number of appeals are industrial and multifamily ones, right? And so, what's your question again, sir? I apologize.
It's just very, very simple. It's just, I'm simply asking you, Mr. Froelich, if you would agree with me based on what you've submitted here, that your model applies a higher capitalization rate to retail properties generally than it does to industrial properties based on this chart.
Yes,
okay,
sir, yeah.
Perfect. And so if this property, as we've established, is a window and door showroom predominantly, is that considered at all based on the fact that it has a higher degree of retail finish? Would that be considered in the cap rate?
So let me rephrase this. So what you're saying is that because it's a retail finish?
It has a showroom finish. Yeah, it's predominantly retail.
You know what? I can't comment on that because I've never been in the building.
Okay, fair enough. Now, in terms of the actual site, are you aware that this property has no city services? No
I
sewer, no
am aware
water?
of that, yes.
Okay, and how does your model treat that influence?
It does make adjustments to it in our model with regards to the land value calculation of it. But overall, we're looking at the income approach to value on that.
No, I understand, but does it apply a 50 basis point adjustment to the cap rate? Does it apply a 100 basis point adjustment?
I can't answer that question.
Okay, and the obvious question here for anyone looking at this is, why is the cap rate only 4.5% for this property?
I tried to adjust that issue with regards to coming up with the settlement value of this. When we couldn't come to agreement, I decided to not make a recommendation because there's such a huge gap between.
That's not my
what the
question, Mr. Froelich. My question is, why is the model?
Is that
We can, you know what? Mr. Froelich, finish your answer.
okay? So what's the
Might
question
not be
again,
the
please?
one you're looking for, Mr. Story, but let him finish.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Froelich.
What was the question again, please?
I'm asking why the model has applied a cap rate of only 4.5% on this building.
Because this building was built in 2007 and it's a very small size.
Okay. Right. Now you've asked me a lot about my cap rate, so I'm going to ask about this chart. How many sales went into your analysis to develop this range?
I think maybe about 15.
Okay, and how many of those were newer properties?
I can't recall.
Okay. All right. And of those inputs, were they scattered throughout the city? Were they in one specific area?
They're throughout the entire city. It's hard to develop cap rates with good data and actuals that are not multi-role sales and then that aren't where they're imputed, where there's too much subjectivity.
Oh, okay. And when you are inputting those sales, are you using a similar calculation methodology that you used in your rebuttal, where you add back mortgage amortization, interest payments,
No,
leasing commissions?
our approach to valuation was a lot more simpler with regard to that. We just did this for the exercise here, trying to make sense of your documentation. So no,
Oh, okay.
that's
So
not
you
the case.
don't, so when you rebut our cap rates, you include those charges because that would bring the NOI up higher, which would lead to a lower cap rate? Is that what you're doing?
Well, yeah, but there was such a discrepancy between what you presented here as a net operating income for your cap rate studies and it's such a discrepancy with regards to what you present at Board of Revision hearings in terms of income.
No.
Okay,
no.
thanks.
Okay.
We know that there's a difference in how it's done. We appreciate that. I'm
Okay.
sure we'll hear lots about that as the cycle proceeds.
Sure. No, I think that well, and just again, just for the record, just for this file, Mr. Froelich, you have nothing in evidence to support your vacancy calculation. There's nothing to support that we can review today, nothing to support the expenses, the shortfall, or the cap
We
rate,
would not
correct?
be able to deal with 12 properties in this and do a proper vacancy analysis for every property in each section, which is why we don't include it. And I'm sure the panel members appreciate the fact that we don't go through such a huge presentation.
And just to be clear, and I'll just ask you once, the onus, Mr. Froelich, is on the city to prove that their analysis is correct, is it not?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Kraus, questions for Mr. Froelich?
Question at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Purvis, do you have any questions? Oh, you are, yeah, go ahead.
I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Froelich, I'm just going to cycle back to a question that Mr. Story kind of was hitting on. This is a property with no potable water, no sewer. It's irregular parcel, all these things. It's a warehouse property, but it has a higher retail component. Those factors, are they reflected in your cap rates, in this particular cap rate?
I want to adjust the cap rate issue.
No, I'm just asking. This is a model cap rate of 4.5.
And so, yeah,
Are those factors reflected in that cap rate of 4.5?
like I said, the factors are inputted when we do the land value calculation for this property. When it comes to the actual income portion of this property, we use the income approach to value.
Okay, so would a buyer look at this property and say, it's got no water, it's got no sewer, I can't park anywhere, because it's a weird shape? Would that be somehow reflected in your cap rate? Or in a cap
I think I
rate?
sort of
Like,
answered that question. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, we didn't do an override on it. Actually, I can't recall.
okay,
But in these type of situations, though, like, I know with regards to your questions are very valid. And so that's why I wanted to come up with a value that made sense for both the
okay,
assessment department and for the agent. Unfortunately, the agent decided
no,
against that.
that's okay. We don't want to hear
Okay.
that
Same old,
part.
same old.
We're looking at the evidence that's presented at this hearing.
I
So
understand.
we're just looking at that right now.
Yep.
Okay, I have no other questions for you, Mr. Froelich. So Mr. Story, on to your evidence, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And just while it's fresh in our mind, you're absolutely correct. This property is very unique in that it does have an odd shape. It doesn't have potable water, and it is sort of isolated. It's relatively isolated. I visited this property once again on August 7th for the purpose of our hearing. So I visited all of the properties that are on our docket that are remaining. Those were visited over the course of that day. On page 9, I include the city record that shows not only is there an influence, and we'll presume that these are negative influences, of no sewer, no water, but it is also directly adjacent to a set of hydro lines. And that is enough of a concern, I suppose, from the city that they've included it as a property influence. This is on page 9 of my brief, and that's from the city, that's from the public site. So you can see there that there's no frontage, there's no water or sewer main, and then there is the consideration for the hydro lines. It is well, it's typified as an industrial warehouse. However, it is a showroom with a small amount of warehouse at the back. It's actually more of a retail property, but for the purpose of our assignment, we've looked at it as a flex retail property, leading to a higher rent. So we're using $14. I think that's fair in totality. Now, at $14, there's a good argument that the expenses perhaps ought to be higher, the shortfall ought to be higher, and retail also has higher risk and higher vacancy. So that being said, we have treated it as a unique industrial building, but those factors are a fair comment. I looked back in the city record, and it does say here, and this is when they applied for a variance. The mandatory setback is typically 25 feet from the road. They applied for 10 feet. And the analysis from the city, this is the manager of planning at the time, said the applicant has an oddly shaped triangular parcel which limits development potential and constrains the possible location of the building on the site, with parking, loading, and storage in the rear lot. So I'm sure you're quite correct. Anybody looking at this property would consider the fact that it doesn't have city sewer or water services. It is a strange triangular parcel. So these are factors that have to be considered on a site-specific review, and we've applied them in the cap rate. So for our purposes today, we've applied a 7% cap rate. I appreciate that the building is indeed newer. We would likely apply a cap rate of likely 6.5% if we had if we did not have these negative influences. But based on what we're seeing, we have to capture that inherent risk somewhere. Obviously, with the cap rate as the numerical representation of risk. We've applied something slightly higher than our 6.5. So a 50 basis point adjustment is to account for the fact that we have no city services. We have an irregular shaped parcel. And frankly, if this were a retail property, that would be a baseline. So we've tried to be very fair and take a moderate position. I don't think we're being aggressive by applying a 7% cap rate to our NOI of $44,027. So when we calculate our income value based on those parameters, we arrive at a value of $629,000. And again, that is based on an NOI of $44,027 capitalized at a rate of 7%. I've included my photos. You can see the lot is gravel. The interior shows the showroom. You can see that that is not a standard industrial finish. There are some offices in that main area. There are windows and doors and that sort of thing. Starting on page 36, you see the small amount of backroom storage, but this is it is a bit of a stretch to call this an industrial property. It is predominantly retail. So with that being said, the 4.5 cap rate is well outside of what anyone would suggest to is a reasonable cap rate for an industrial or retail property. And again, we've applied 7% after a full and site-specific review of the property. So we are requesting $629,000 today, Madam Chair, on that basis, and I'm happy to take questions and a thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Story. Mr. Froelich, do you have questions?
2 questions. Applicant stated that this property is isolated. How is this property isolated?
Well, if you visit, it's not close to here. I'll read you what was written by the city. This is very interesting to me. They said, here it is. In the analysis, it says, okay, industrial character of the street is coupled with inconsistent building orientation, and the subject faces Lage and is situated on a relatively isolated stretch of debris. And that's true. So when you go down there, it doesn't have, it's sort of, it's not a typical retail or industrial node. It is somewhat isolated. I haven't made an adjustment for that, but it was an interesting comment from the city that I did mention here.
So is it close to Chief Peguis and to Lagimodier?
Well, it faces Lage. Yep.
Okay, so using that question, are those the areas considered to be isolated?
We're talking about the subject property.
Okay,
It's sort of sitting in the middle of it.
But isn't it in close proximity to Lagimodier and
Well, I think the point that the city was making here is that it is somewhat, it says relatively isolated stretch of debris. So if you go down that stretch, it is not, it is inconsistent. There are some piecemeal kind of builds down there. It's not a typical node as you well know. You've walked down there, you said, and it's off a B road. You're aware of that, certainly.
Yeah, I'm very mindful of the location, Mr. Applicant. So my other question that I have with regards to that is, you said Archibald was much inferior to Nairn, and then subsequently this property here would be much inferior to the Archibald property, correct?
No, I didn't say that at all.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you the question.
No. If I think you should
Property
visit
would be
Archibald
much-
and no. So what I've said is I've taken a baseline for this property would be 6.5% if it were a regular parcel, if it did not have the negative influence of the hydro lines, if it did not have the negative influence of not being connected to city services. So our baseline for this property ought to be something like 6.5%. And I've made an adjustment on a site-specific basis based on the, again, a regular parcel and some of these negative influences, and also with consideration to the fact that this does have a high degree of retail. There's exposure to retail here. Retail cap rates are typically higher, so I believe that 7% is very reasonable.
And so are you aware of the sale that took place in 2010?
I don't know about that sale. I know that this was a window and door operation prior. I didn't go back to a 15 or so year old sale.
I understand that. Yeah, I completely understand that. And but generally speaking, for the do you know of a lot of other properties that are similar to this that would have only increased $59,000 over 15 years?
I do not agree with your idea that property simply appreciates on a linear path for all time. I know that we've discussed that before, but I think that our income valuation is solid. I don't have a background on the sale. I don't think you've submitted here anything to review with regard to the sale. I don't know if it was a clean market transaction. I don't know the details. All I know is that I'm using a higher rent than you. Generally, our allowances are effectively the same. but your cap rate is 4.5%. So I don't know if you're trying to back into that sale or what's happening, but a 7% cap rate.
No,
on this
I'm
property
not.
is
I'm just,
appropriate.
as a general comment, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Froelich?
I have no other questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Purvis, questions for Mr. Story?
I don't think I have any questions. No, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kress?
Just with regards to the cap rate, you are working with a 7% cap rate, and I've sort of heard a couple of things. One is because retail is riskier, so you're sort of classifying that, but then you also make mention because it doesn't have the frontage or this. So you're sort of, to my understanding, that you're kind of using both viewing it as both an industrial and as a retail.
Well, it would be considered a flex property. So, but in this case, typically when we see flex properties, the preponderance of the space is used for industrial. In this case, it's the opposite. So yes, retail is riskier. It does typically, it is conferred a higher cap rate. Now, regardless of whether the property is industrial or retail, the fact that it's not considered, connected to city services, that would be a concern for any asset class. So we are viewing it as an industrial property, but in the subclass, we would consider the fact that it has a higher degree of exposure to retail. And we are also considering the fact that it has no city services. And as the city's records indicate, there's a potential for limited further development based on proximity to the hydro line. So we're considering all of these factors, Mr. Krause, because we are taking, again, a site-specific review of the property. It's not a computer or model-generated assessment.
And your rent as well is based on that number 14. It's based on it being a retail.
Precisely. Higher degree of retail would have a higher degree of finish, which typically leads to a higher base rent. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Story, is there a reason why there's no water, no sewer? Is that a choice by the owner?
No, I don't think so. I don't think anyone would choose to,
No,
if you had the opportunity. It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know.
Has there ever been a request to be hooked
you know
up?
what? I think this might be, well, I don't want to say it's my first time handling this property. I may have done it once in the past. I'm not sure. I should ask the owner if it's even a possibility. I'm not sure. I don't have a background on it. I know that as it stands today, if someone were purchasing it, it's not connected. But in terms of the availability for them to connect it, and in terms of the costs that would be associated, I'm not sure. But that is a very, very good question. I will ask the owner if there's ever been a request made. That would be a good piece of information for our folders.
Yeah, because it's not like they're completely isolated. There are other properties along that stretch of DeVries, according to your maps. I can't really see what they are.
They look like little storage warehouses, though. So if they didn't have sewer or water, that would not totally surprise me. But I can't speak to those.
I can't really tell.
Yeah, I'll check the record and see if that is a problem unique to our property, or if that is the whole that whole stretch. But that's, yeah.
I could actually add some insight to that.
Okay.
And so it seems to me that stretch, so this parcel prior to it was built, it was vacant land.
Mhm.
And all the streets, all the properties that are north of Sun Valley and DeVries do not have sewer water.
Okay.
So I think because it was isolated at the time, and that the developer Qualico, who would have been responsible, you know what I mean, for city services, I'm just speculating.
Yeah, because there is clearly a housing development right across that hydro line.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just a curiosity.
Yeah, because all those homes that were here were built like 1980s, 1990s.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's it for the main evidence. So, Mr. Story, you have no rebuttal to present?
No, that's fine, Madam Chair.
And Mr. Froelich, you have rebuttal evidence that you would like to stand, or no?
We've discussed it enough. We're moving forward.
Does it apply to this evidence also?
To
this file?
It would be, but it's not necessary to go through it, right?
Okay, no, that's not my question. For
Okay,
the record,
okay.
does your rebuttal evidence also apply to this property?
Well, yes, it would. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Because some of the information there is applicable to all the cap rates that
okay, so
applicant
for
has
this
provided.
property and for every property on the docket, that rebuttal evidence should be reflected as,
Yes.
okay, thank you. Mr. Story, do you have any questions on that rebuttal evidence that you've thought of subsequently?
No, I think I'll let my prior questions and comments stand and ask that they carry forward, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kraus, how about you? Any questions on the rebuttal that might
No, I
come?
have no question.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Purvis? No? Okay, thank you.
No, sorry.
I
my-
got the sign language there. Okay, that will conclude item number 8, unless Mr.
Summation?
Frolick, you would like summation.
Yes, please.
Okay,
And so when I looked at the valuation of this property, considering all the issues that were brought forth by the applicant, I really wanted to do a deal for this property. And you go through different sort of situations and scenarios, right? And the gap between the agent's value and ours is too far apart. But I used the actual rented place and I adjusted the cap rate and I came up with a value of $748,000. That was what towards I was looking for in that sort of range. But what ended up happening, the gap was too high. The position is that, you know, the valuation provided by the applicant is too low in my eyes. And so that's why I didn't present that as a recommendation, because this may end up being at the municipal board, depending upon what happens at the board of revision level. Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Frolick. Mr. Story?
Just quickly, Madam Chair, and I'm sure you can appreciate when we have without prejudice discussions, we would ask that they're not we don't talk about our negotiations in a public hearing. But and I'll just say that once, but ultimately, the assessor has told us that he hasn't visited the property, not interiors, and this is all model generated, and effectively the application of this 4.5% cap rate is leading to an increase of north of 40%. That is extraordinary. I believe that our submission is well-founded and our value makes a lot of sense. We're not fighting the rents. We're simply requesting that this property be viewed on its merits with all of its unique characteristics. It is a site-specific review, and on that basis, we would suggest that value of $629,000 is appropriate, and I will leave my comments there, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Story. That will conclude item number 8. So let's move now to item number 9. This is file number 26-2560, 349 Johnson Avenue West. Mr. Frolick, when you are ready with item number 9, please.
Thank you very much. File number is 26-2560. Roll number is 14-082-889-100. Assessed value for this property is $968,000. One building built in 1972, 16-foot ceiling height. The land area is 15,416, and the leasable area is 6,030. The land area is 2.5. The land to building ratio is 2.56. And so what's interesting about this property is that the property owner owns the property to the west of it. And if land to building ratio is an issue and he wants to improve that, you know, we look forward to the applicant going through the replot process and making that application. Property owner has been compliant with regards to filling out the income and expense mailers. And the property did sold on February 3rd, 2016 for $675,000. It is an owner-occupied property. Page 3 has, there's a picture of it on page 3, and we do have pictures of this property. I have not inspected it, but it's not necessary for the assessor to inspect every property for every docket if we have things on file. Property is built bath fitter on the bottom of page 4. It's in the northeast quadrant. Those familiar, it's on Johnson Street, sort of like in a unique corner and location in terms of there's a fair amount of high traffic volume on Johnson, and it comes off of Stadacona leading to Watt. As you can see by the finish on the top of page 5, there's a lovely finish with regards to this. And in terms of the argument about retail and not retail, we usually expect industrial properties to have a 20% nicer office finish. So I don't know the breakdown of the previous property, but seeing on page 5 here that there is a quality finish here, which is reflective upon the rent. On page 6 is the warehouse component of it. And now we're looking at page 7, our income. We have this property listed as a flex warehouse, 6,030 square feet, utilizing a rent of $8.77. The gross potential income is 52,883, 2.5% for vacancy, 3% for expenses, 425 for shortfall, coming up with a net operating income of 49,373. Cap rate's 5.10%, and our assessed value is 968. My comparables. All my comparables are in the eastern side of the city, ranging from 2021 to 2022. They range in length from, say, 2 years to 6 years, and they're all similar in terms of leased area. Our range is from 3258 all the way up to 7550. Wall heights range from 17 feet to 22 feet, and the effective year builds are all from our oldest is 1961, and from 1971 and 1979. We've gone through the cap rate information, and that includes my formal presentation. I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Story, questions?
Yes, just a couple. Okay, so Mr. Froelich, you mentioned that there's a nice degree of retail finish here.
Office, retail, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's a flex warehouse. It's clearly not a shopping center. It's
Okay, is it open?
not, so it's a single occupancy. So usually when most retail components are much larger in scope, and when they're larger in scope, they have a higher cap rate. So with regards to your retail argument, I tend to disagree with it, but that's my opinion.
Okay, that's not what I asked you. Just asked you if it had a retail finish, but okay.
Office, retail.
Okay. Would you agree though that typically the office and the retail sectors would probably have a higher rent than what you're modeling here?
Yeah, but we have it as a flex warehouse, and this is the rent that we've used.
Okay, and again, just to echo my previous comments, would you agree with me that by your model, without your analysis, just your model, if this were typified as a retail building, would we have a higher allowance for vacancy, and would we have a higher cap rate?
But it's not retail. It's a flex warehouse.
Okay.
They have a shipping component here, so I think I've answered this question before.
You said it has a shipping component?
Well, when I look at the pictures, I'm pretty sure if you look, they're shipping stuff out of the doors. Like I don't have a picture of it, but I'm sure there's I'm assuming there's a door that they unload their equipment to. You know, you're not going to have a large shipping area when you have 6,000 square foot space. Okay. But I'm sure there's a door that trucks could go there to load, to install bathtubs and shower units.
Right. There's a door. So now just to be very clear though, the public can walk in and purchase goods from this operation. Is that your understanding?
Well, the storefront would make it seem that a person could walk in, yes.
Right, okay. So typically that would be a retail use, right? You walk in, you buy a good, you pay, you walk out. That's typically how retail works in a simplified way.
It's not truly retail. It's not like you're buying a quart of milk there. You're talking with a person to establish a new bathroom. So there's a retail component in the broad sense, yes. Okay. It's not a retail component like Giant Tiger, Freshco, or Superstore.
No, it's not a grocery store. Okay, I think, and sorry, and just lastly, Mr. Froelich, this is all model generated with no overrides?
That's correct.
Okay. Those are my questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Purvis, do you have questions for the assessor?
Just looking for a bit of clarification on the rent comps. we've got 3 properties listed at 1333 Niagara Road East. One has a 1 at the end, so I'm assuming that's unit 1. There's 2 that say unit 7. Am I missing a number? Is it like unit 71 and just they got cut off? They have different roll numbers, but I'm just trying to.
You know what? Let me just, I'm not too sure actually, because, you know, we're trying to bring comps that are within the neighborhood, right? And so I would have to double check.
Like the rent difference is a penny per square, like it's not.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah. What happens there, the tenancy's the same and they were signed at different times. One lease was signed in 2022, one lease was signed in 2021.
okay, so then they
Does
took
that
over
help?
some space within it or something, and okay, that yeah, I was a little when I was looking at it, I was just like, no, I just read that address, so I was a little confused, but
Okay.
that's my questions. I think otherwise you've answered everything that I might have had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Purvis. Mr. Kraus, questions?
I have no questions at this time, thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions either, Mr. Froelich, so thank you.
Just for further clarification on the question with regards to Niagara Road, that's also a flex warehouse, and there is 4 different tenancies there, or 5 different tenancies.
Okay, so that answers that. Okay, thank you. Mr. Story.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So as we've established, we're at 349 Johnson Avenue. This is indeed in the, this would be considered the Chalmers neighborhood. So the property is improved with a gross floor and leasable area of, 6,030 square feet with 16-foot wall heights. It is currently used as a flex industrial retail location for bathroom supplies. It does, again, have a higher degree of retail finish than we might typically see in an industrial building, but that is based on the fact that it does have a retail component at the front. It is zoned light manufacturing, and the land to building is low at only 2.56 to 1. However, the owner does also own and utilize 345 Johnson West. So that was where they were storing their trucks, their bath fitter trucks. It is a fenced compound. They've had to secure it further. Frankly, they had some issues in the neighborhood with theft. So I don't believe they're storing vehicles to the same degree that they once were, but they certainly require it for staging snow removal and that sort of thing. So I have confirmed with the owner that it is indeed part of the overall economic unit. So to Mr. Froelich's point that he had mentioned, we are not making an adjustment for low land to building, notwithstanding the fact that the actual subject parcel is indeed sub 3 to 1. I've put a photo. You can see the bath fitter truck is indeed there on page 10. That is that fenced compound right next door. And I've provided markers on the map on page 10 of my brief as well, so that you can see. Now, I will speak with the owner about requesting a roll merge. I would see no problem with that. That would be a good thing. That would certainly narrow our issues should the property come under appeal once again. So I will certainly speak with them about that. We've used a rent of $10 per foot in this instance. Again, that is higher than the city assessor. Again, we've typically applied vacancy of 3 to 5%. We've supported that with the Johnson report. You've heard me ask the assessor multiple times today if he has support for his vacancy rate. I think I've neglected up until this point to tell you that we have included in all of our submissions the Johnson report, which gives us an indication as to where vacancy ought to be. We, of course, consider collection loss as well as part of the consideration. I'm not sure if the city does or not. The shortfall rate that we've applied here is $4.25, which is not in dispute. Again, there's a cogent argument that ought to be higher based on the higher rent, based on the higher degree of finish. This is not simply a large warehouse. This does have a high degree of retail finish. Non-recovered expenses are, we've applied 3% as the city has as well. And once again, we've applied a cap rate of 6.5%. Now, I mentioned in our previous property that for properties such as this, and they are similar to some degree in that location, I think DeVries might be superior to some degree. Johnson is in that Chalmers area, which is based on the owner's discussions with me. They have had some trouble there, so we haven't made an adjustment, but we are applying a baseline cap of 6.5%. I think that's reasonable. It recognizes the exposure to retail, the degree of finish, and then we've also we've not adjusted again for the low land to building and the lack of adequate land, but we have instead adjusted out the assessed value of that adjacent parcel of $146,000. So you'll see that as a negative adjustment on my page 24, and that is standard practice when we have two separately assessed properties that form one economic unit. In order to avoid the owner being doubly taxed, we do adjust that out. We do have the adjacent role under appeal. And if it is indeed deducted from the main holding, our process is to simply withdraw that second appeal of the vacant land. So that is, and again, that is $146,000. I've included that on what we'll call the valuation map on page 26. Mr. Froelich mentioned a sale, but that sale is inclusive of both roles. Again, my inspection photos begin on page 27. I was there on again, August 7th, and I've included all of these photos for you. You can see the compound. You can see they're using it for excess storage. There's some old bath liners. There's a couple of work vehicles. And then the interior shows the degree of retail finish and the offices through the property. Now, Bath Fitter was not always, they took over some adjacent units and have turned this into one large operation. So a fair bit of this property is actually, as Mr. Froelich said, is office. There is some office element here too, and you can see that in my photo starting on about page 38. So from the main showroom, from the retail area, there's a hallway with professional offices. We have the photos there. And then the photos of the industrial section start, this is the warehouse, start on page 42. And again, these are fresh photos indicating current condition. So ultimately that 5.1 cap rate that's been applied by the model is far too low. And again, I think we've been quite fair with the application of a 6.5 cap, leading to an indicated market value of $715,000. And with that, I'm open to your questions, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Froelich, questions? Sorry, you're muted right now, Mr. Froelich.
You want to be respectful. I make too many noise, so I apologize for that. Has this property ever have a history of being vacant?
Being vacant, I'm not sure. I haven't reviewed the, no, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay, so, and you're using a 3% vacancy, correct?
I'm using a 3% vacancy. Yeah.
Okay. And what does a 0.5 point vacancy impact the value of the property on a property that's only 6,030 square feet?
We could certainly calculate it, but
okay, I'm just asking you. I'm just asking.
That's I wish I could do that.
Yeah, I'm not that talented either. No,
yeah.
No, that's fine. My last question is has the owner gone through the formal process of asking for a replot on this property?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, these folks are in the business of selling, bath accessories, and so. But I did mention that, I will speak to them, and if that is something they'd like to do, we can certainly pursue that. I think personally, I think that makes more sense. It saves them on appealing two properties if we have an issue. So I would be amenable to that, but I will certainly speak to them, and your comments are well received. I will certainly ask them if they have any interest in that.
And just confirming on the record that if the deduction does take place of $146,000, you will withdraw that appeal?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
No
Otherwise, if we
Thank
didn't,
you.
Mr. Froelich, then that would be inappropriate. So yes, of course we would do that.
I see lots of things, Jared, as you can imagine, over the years.
Okay. All right.
No further questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Purvis, do you have questions?
Just to clarify for myself, the reduction that we're looking at is for the adjacent lot that you had to use as a parking lot.
Precisely, yeah, it's the fenced compound. So the rationale, Mr. Purvis, is that when this property sell, and actually to Mr. Froelich's point about the sale, they sold as a single economic unit. For whatever reason, they're on two different roll numbers. I'm not sure why. It would make more sense if they were simply joined. And that economic unit was captured under a single roll. But as it stands now, our position, and this has generally been accepted by boards in the past, is that the value of that compound is captured under the assessment of the main holding. And that's why we're not making adjustments for that low land building. On the main holding, we are treating this as a single economic unit, but in order to avoid doubly taxing the owner, we deduct the assessment of the adjacent parcel. So that's the rationale. It's to avoid doubly taxing the owner.
Okay, thank you. I just, yeah, wasn't 100% clear on that. It's a bit clearer now. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Kroos?
Questions at this time?
Okay. I was wondering about that adjustment also. So that is the amount that's on the roll right now.
Precisely. Yep. And
And
that is that's in the evidence. I have the assessment map, and so it's flagged. You can see that it's that is the current assessment, and it is, once again, it is under appeal. So once that is deducted from the main roll, we can withdraw the protective appeal of the adjacent parcel.
Right. So without that adjustment on the NOI, your capitalization income value comes to 861,000. Right.
Yep.
Right. But you're requesting 715 for the other
Right, because that's
piece.
a below the line deduction for the adjacent.
Right.
Precisely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. So I have no other questions. Mr. Froelich, I'm noting that you do have rebuttal evidence on the cap rates presented by Mr. Story, and your presentation is noted, as is your questions back, Mr. Story. So that will conclude item number 9. So let's move to item number 11 now. This is file number 26-2875, 865 Wall Street. Mr. Froelich.
File number is 262875. Roll number is 13-011-889800. Assessed value is $847,000. It's a warehouse, 1 building, 2 premises, built in 1963, has an effective year of 1963, with wall heights of 14 feet. The leasable area is 6,945, and the land to building ratio is just over 2 to 1. We're asking for the assessment value to be confirmed because we are unable to come to a new mutual agreement for the 2025 and 2027 values for this property. Property owner has been compliant with regards to completing their income and expense mailer. And I went through the calculations with regard to this, and I ended up coming up with the actual rent of $10 a square foot. Total recoveries they have is $25,808 divided by the $69.25 equals $3.72 in recoveries that they're getting. The city recoveries is $4.25, so that would actually make the net rent $9.48. And here's just a little picture with regards to just a print screen of the attributes of this property. I have not inspected this property. It is on Wall Street, which is a major thoroughfare connecting Portage to Notre Dame in the west end of the city of Winnipeg. You can see the location on the bottom of page 3, and on the top of page 3, you can see an exterior photo of this. I have not been in this property. I have not inspected it, and we have no pictures on file. What do we have? So we have a total leasable area of 6,945 square feet, and our blended rent is $8.88. We're using 4% vacancy, 3% for expenses, 425 for shortfall to come up with a net operating income of 56,294. Utilizing a cap rate of 6.65%, we come up with a value of $847,000. All my comparables are in the downtown area. They're on Maryland, Erin, Gertie, Erin, Wellington. They're all the oldest lease is a 10-year lease in 2016. And the range of the leasable areas is as small as 2450, which is, and then moving forward, up all the way up to 7170. Wall heights range from 13 feet to 22 feet. This is an older stock neighborhood, so it's not a new property, which is why it has such a higher cap rate than some of the other properties that we looked at. And the range of rents go from here from $7.90 all the way to $9. We discussed the cap rate situation, and that concludes my presentation. I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Story, questions?
Yes, just very quickly, Mr. Froelich, just you said that you have not visited the property, correct?
That is correct.
Has anyone visited the property from the city?
When I looked for it, we didn't have any pictures on file, but let me just double check, Jarrett.
Okay.
Because part of that as well is because it's at the municipal board. You know what I mean? So if we go to the municipal board for case management, then we'll do an inspection at that time.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. And this is all computer generated, all model?
That is
models?
correct.
Okay. Okay, and I noticed the actual year and the effective year are 1963. Is that does that affect the cap rate?
That would affect the cap rate.
Does the wall height of only 14 feet affect the cap rate?
That would affect the cap rate.
And the land to building, it's just a touch better than 2 to 1. Would that affect the cap rate?
Yeah, but that's indicative of the area. There's not a lot of in true industrial properties, right? Because the Wall Erin area and the older established neighborhoods, wall to building ratio, land to building ratio is a lot different than say in St. Boniface Industrial Park or Inkster Industrial Park.
Yeah, okay. Right, okay, but when we're looking at the entirety of the industrial universe in Winnipeg, would you agree with me that about 4 to 1 would be considered a standard or good ratio?
Yeah, but there's not but 4 to 1's the standard if there are big semi trucks moving product in and out. In a location like this, like how much warehousing space do you have on 6,900 square feet?
Right.
I'm pretty sure there's not too many 18-wheeler trucks that are going behind the Wall Street back lane.
Right.
So I disagree with that comment for this type of property.
You disagree with which comment?
With regards to the land to building ratio being so small for a property on Erin because there's no semi trucks that are loading and unloading here. The 4 to 1 ratio is in more established, newer neighborhoods where there's a significant shipping component of it.
Right. So the fact that that's absent here, does that indicate to you that it has a more limited market for users?
Well, I wouldn't agree with that either because the marketplace is the marketplace. What I think is that the marketplace, because it's such a small area, which doesn't cost millions of dollars, it's assessed at $847,000. So if anything, due to the nature of the building, there are more potential buyers for this.
Oh, okay, but they won't be a business that relies on trailers and high degree of shipping based on what you've just said, right?
Well, based on my experience, there's not a lot of room for inventory in a 6,900 square foot building.
Okay, very interested in page 2. Now this is an owner occupied property. You'd be aware of that based on the fact that it's the MMB, correct?
You know what ends up happening, I'm basing it on what they have on the mailer here.
Okay, but you do know that it's owner occupied, correct? You don't? Okay.
The owner doesn't indicate that it's owner occupied.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm looking at this calculation that you've done, and it's very interesting. Now you haven't considered, I guess, bank charges, amortization, property management, supplies, professional fees, insurance, correct? All those charges are missing from your calculation. Is that fair?
Well, there's recoveries for this building here of $3.70.
Yeah, no, I understand that there are some recoveries. And you've reported the recovery, you've rightly said that the recoveries are 25,808. But when I look up at that expense schedule, it doesn't show anything for insurance. Presumably a building has to be insured, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct, yeah.
Yep.
So,
And a property that's leased typically would include a property management charge, typically 5% of EGI, something like that, right?
not in this situation when it's owner occupied.
Right, okay.
So
But
it
if it
wouldn't be
were,
5%.
okay.
And some
All
of
right,
the,
but
some
I
of the
suppose
expenses that
my
you're trying to
point, Mr.
document here
Froelich,
would be.
is
One
applicable in
person
this
at a time,
situation.
please. We can't make it out. Mr.
So-
Story?
So my point, Mr. Froelich, is if those recoveries, because you've tried to net out a rent of 948, but you're using recoveries that don't include standard charges like insurance, correct?
Well, Mr. Story, we're only as good as the information provided by the property owner. What I've done here is that when I looked at this is information that I was able to deduct.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
understand that, but
you know, and that's
okay.
what it boils down to. It's like when we look at the valuation for this property, this is just an example of what has here. But isn't this a moot point, Mr. Story, if this is an owner occupied building like you
No,
state?
you've submitted it into evidence, and I just want to talk about it because can we agree, just regardless, mathematically, if we included the insurance charge, and that then became part of the reported recoveries, the recoveries on a per square foot basis would be higher, just mathematically. Is that
You
correct?
know what, Mr. Story, in this situation, I don't agree with you because it's an owner occupied property.
Okay, okay, that's fine. I don't think the math is open to interpretation, but let's.
No, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Story, but at the
Okay.
end of the day, it's an owner occupied property like you've stated.
Right,
So
okay.
I made an assumption that was wrong
Mhm.
based on the
Okay.
fact that it's an
Okay.
owner occupied property.
Yep. we
Mr.
got it.
Froelich, you've explained your math, and Mr. Story, you've pointed out where you see flaws in the math. So
Yes.
we get that there's a difference in how you
Yep.
each see it should be done.
Perfect. Okay, and just moving on, Mr. Froelich, to your page 4, and this I suppose speaks to the economies of scale question that I had in the first 2 files. But you've applied, or your model rather, has applied 2 different rental rates to this property. Can you tell us why?
I think at one point there were 2 different tenancies in this building. So if there are 2 different tenancies, that I'm just speculating. I don't really know, but
I think so, but okay.
You know.
Okay, and would you agree with me that generally, if you were to capture the leasable area of the owner occupied space, that modeled rent on a per foot basis would be lower than both of those figures that are being applied here today? Is that a fair comment?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
because I got other comparables here
okay.
that are within the range.
No. Based on your model, if the square footage goes up, does the rental rate not typically go down?
Yeah, there would be a slight downward adjustment.
Right.
That's a fair question to make.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just going to go over your rental comps very, very quickly. Do they all have similar land to building as our property?
I
Or are
don't
they
have
superior?
access to that information.
You don't have access to that?
But in fairness, though, looking at some of these properties here,
Mhm.
you know, they're all older stock, but I don't have that answer, so I
Mhm.
apologize.
Okay. That property on, well, okay, no, that's an atypical one. On Aaron, that's a 20-foot wall height. Would that typically, that's a 20-foot wall height, but a lower rent. So, can we agree at a minimum that is a superior wall height to our subject?
Yes, it would be.
Okay. And the property on Gertie, that's a 1-year lease. Would you agree with me that 1-year leases are typically signed at a higher rate than a 5 or 10-year lease?
Yes and no. It depends upon step ups.
Are you aware that 650 Aaron is owner occupied?
We're only as good as the information provided to us by the clients.
You have that, but okay, if you wouldn't mind checking your record, I can confirm that is indeed owner occupied. 1079 Wellington, the last one, that is a boutique retail store, is it not?
It may be,
Yeah,
but it's also a
5,
1953 building.
sure, okay, but it's fit up for retail, correct? It's a boutique.
It could be.
Yeah, okay. I know that building fairly well. I also know 595 Wall. Are you aware that that's Barnhammer Brewing? That's a tap
I
room.
am fully aware of that, yep.
Okay, so that would
So,
typically
so
have a
the
higher.
challenge is when we're trying to find comparables, is that we're trying to find comparables that are in the neighborhood that are in
Right,
that are in close proximity.
I understand, but have you seen the interior of 595 Wall? The current, the state that it's in presently?
Oh, I've been there, yes.
Okay, and can we agree that that is a sort of a modern microbrewery, tap room, kind of almost like a restaurant?
It's a nice property.
Yeah, okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Story. Mr. Purvis, do you have questions for Mr. Froelich?
I do not have any questions with regard to this property.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kraus?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. And I don't believe I have any questions either, Mr. Froelich. Thank you for your presentation. Mr. Story, your presentation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So here we are at 865 Wall. This is a owner-occupied property. That's the east side of Wall between St. Matthews and Ellis. This is the west end. The building was constructed in 1963. The wall heights are very low at only 14 feet. We have to consider that is for most users, that would be considered a negative. That would be considered obsolete for many users in our market. The site size is rectangular with site size of 14,468 square feet. It has M1 zoning, and again, that land to building ratio is just slightly better than 2 to 1 at 2.09 to 1. That is something of a concern. Again, I'd mentioned that we start considering adjustments when we're below 3 to 1. So 2 to 1 is quite low. In terms of the market rent, I've provided you with a number of comparables on my page 15. In the interest of time today, Madam Chair, I would point your attention to the 3 on King Edward. Those are my best comps. They're built in precisely the same vintage, 1964. They're all in around that 6,000 square feet. And the most recent lease, that's for indicator number 4, that was signed in January of 2025, so absolutely germane to our reference date. And it was signed at a rate of $7.50. That property has 16-foot wall heights, so slightly better than ours. And it also has a frustrated land to building at 2.07 to 1. So many of the same concerns, same quality of stock. There's an argument that perhaps King Edward is superior to Wall in terms of location. We haven't made that adjustment, but based on the fact that very good rental indicator is at $7.50, we feel very comfortable at $8 per foot. We have treated this as a single leasable area. I'd mentioned, or I'd asked the assessor what would happen if you applied a rate to the entirety, and frankly, it would go down. To my knowledge, this property has not been multi-tenant. So we've made that, we've applied $8. Now, I have made an adjustment here. Initially, we came out with a cap rate of 7.5%. After visiting the property, I believe that to be slightly too aggressive. And I'm going to make an adjustment here to 7%. And I think that aligns firmly with what we've been discussing here today. So it's a good quality building, but it's older. It has some of these incurable issues. So we do have an incurable wall height problem. We do have a land to building problem. However, 7.5% is a little too high, I think. So I've adjusted to 7%. So with my NOI of 50,557, capitalized with a rate of 7%, we come to a new indicated market value of $722,000. That's $722,000. That's our new request based on our review and our adjustment based on, again, a site-specific review of the property. The balance of my photos includes the warehouse space. The warehouse space is in poor condition. Some of the front office space is in good condition, and you have those photos. So on balance, I believe our position is precisely where it ought to be. particularly after that adjustment from 7.5 to 7. So we do respectfully submit that the value ought not to exceed 722,000 for 2027. And with that, I'm open to your questions, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Froelich, do you have any questions?
Okay, so is 60 Paramount and 65 Paramount single tenancies? Or are there multiple units in those buildings?
You know what? I'd have to bring it up. Let me just pull up my.
Because I like to believe they're a part of the industrial strip mall.
Which
Sorry,
index numbers are those,
Which
Mr.
one
So
Story?
it is a comparable lease, number 60, and I know 65 for sure.
Okay, we
sorry,
don't
can you
have
tell me
the actual
index
addresses.
number?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, because the agent did that. I
Could you just give
apologize.
us the index number,
Yeah.
please?
Oh, sorry, I apologize. Index 1 that
Yes.
I have questions about. Index 3, 4, and 5 I have questions about.
Okay, and is it
And-
all the
and-
same questions about
Yeah, and
multiple
the
tenants?
index 8 and 9, are they like, so the subject property is a single tenant building? Or are there multiple tenancies in these other buildings?
Yeah, 60 Paramount is
Index-
multi-tenanted. Yeah,
Is that index 1, Mr. Story?
yes, index 1
Okay,
precisely.
thank you.
However, Mr. Froelich, that property has 21-foot wall heights and a superior land to building at 2.54 and superior zoning at M2. So it is
Then why would you
superior.
use it as a comparable then?
Well, because we're trying to be fair, and it's not like we're going to find only properties built in 1963 with exactly the same characteristics. However, as I pointed out in my verbal submission and in my written submission, indices 3, 4, and 5 are my best comparables. They are most closely matched to our property. And again, those rents run from 7 to 775 a foot, and we've applied 8. So I think we're bang on. And if your model were to treat this property properly as a single tenant, single premise, I suspect that you'd be closer to $8 as well.
Okay, so, but in fairness, when you're using those as comparables, we're not having an apples to apples conversation because the tendencies and the type of properties are vastly different. Because when
They're
I
not
look, when I-
vastly different. They're industrial buildings in the city of Winnipeg. They're built in the 60s and 70s. They're within comparable market regions. They are not wildly deviated from the subject.
Okay,
This is a good sample, frankly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So my question is how many BA tendencies are there at 547 King Edward?
How many BA
BA
tendencies?
tendencies, because because the subject property is one tenancy, around 6,069.25 square feet. If 547 is your best comparable, which is what you're stating, my records show that there's 6 different BA tenancies in this building here. So to me, it's not an apples to apples conversation.
I would disagree with that,
comment?
but you're certainly welcome to your opinion. But no, I think this is similar quality space. I think our location at King Edward is likely a bit better, frankly. But no, I think the market for this type of space for early 60s properties with low wall heights, low land to building is in that $7 to $8 range, and we've used 8. So I think that's fair.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Kraus, do you have questions for Mr. Story?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Purvis, do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions.
Thank you. I do not have questions either. Mr. Froelich, your rebuttal evidence on the cap rate study is noted, as are the questions from Mr. Story being carried forward. So thank you for that. Mr. Froelich, do you care for summation on this property?
I will, because I know Jared will say something. When we're looking at property valuation, it's important to compare apples to apples. And, and the challenges for our property, it's hard to get good rents. So I understand the challenges Mr. Story has, because I have the same challenges. However, when he states that his best comparable is 547 King Edward, which is a building significantly larger than 6,000 square feet or 6,900 square feet as a subject property. And it has 5 different BA or 6 different BA tenancies. To me, I question the judgment for that, but we're entitled to your opinion, and that's why we have you guys to listen to our story. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Story?
Yes, well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So speaking of judgment, when we look to the rental comparables that have been applied by Mr. Froelich today, I can't help but note that he's used what is effectively a restaurant as a comparable for a small mill workshop on Wall Street. Our comparables are more comparable, frankly. And further to this, if you look at the actual modeled rent that's being applied, it's broken this property into 2 smaller premises. That's not appropriate. If you were to use one single premise, I suspect that the model would come out at a rent that is closer to our $8. I think that we've been very fair. We've looked at our cap rate and made that adjustment from 7.5 to 7. And I do believe that our revised request of the board of 722,000 is a very, very fair and optimistic view of this property. And we do ask that it be adjusted on that basis. And I thank you.
Thank you very much,
Jared,
Mr.
what's your value again? I'm sorry, I didn't write that down.
Mr. Froelich, we're concluding item number 11 now. And now we're moving to item number 12. This is file number 26-2526, 261 Stanley. Mr. Froelich, the floor is yours.
Could I just ask what was the new value that Mr. Story?
722, Mayor.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you.
722.
Sorry, it's just 261 Stanley, 26-2526. Roll numbers 1308-154-3000. Assessed value for this property is $911,000. One building, number of premises 6, 5 stories, old building, built in 1906, 10 feet wall heights. Land area is 7872. The total area for the leasable area is 26,520, and the land to building ratio is 1.51. This is essentially on the outskirts of central downtown, which is why it's not common to have a 4-to-1 building ratio for this type of property. Property owner has been compliant with regards to completing the income and expense mailer, so we thank him for that. And I had the opportunity to come across a sales listing for this property that provides us some value and information on this. We do have pictures on file for this property. I've actually been in this building, so I figured the listing that we have here is very indicative of what this building looks like. So warehouse redevelopment opportunities. We have the building size at 46,000, and we have the lot size of 20,000. Property highlights on page 4. Exceptional opportunity to acquire well-built, multi-story, former warehouse auction house, ideal for the continued commercial use or residential conversion. Property highlights: 46,000 plus or minus square feet across 2 adjoining buildings situated on 20,438 square feet, including a large portion of adjacent back lane. There's actually 3 roll numbers that are a part of this property. In the sales listing that would be included with the sale. We only have the main building in our valuation process. New forced air furnace on all floors, main floor air conditioning. So when we look at our effective year built for this property, it shouldn't be 1906, which would also impact the value moving forward. Brand new sprinkler system that was completed in 2025, 3 dock level loading docks, 2 loading elevators that have the capacity to hold 1,500 pounds and 4,000 pounds, and it's zoning character C. Most of us are probably a bit familiar with this building, or maybe not, with regards to the outdoor of the facade of it. It does look old and it does look dated, but in the same regards, it seems to me like the bones of the building has had significant improvements. On page 6, you're seeing the warehouse space for this property. As you can see, older floors, the beams, the workshop areas on page 6. Page 7 shows the plan area. And so Mr. Story will include this in his brief, but I think there's the main parcel and maybe 2 back lanes, maybe 3, I'm not too sure. But Mr. Story and I had some discussions on this property, so that's why I'm sharing his information. We have the main floor footprint and the footprint on the second to fourth floor on pages 8 and 9. Fifth floor footprint and the basement floor plan. And the location of this property is on page 12. Property is described as being a loft warehouse. So we have the footprint area of each floor being 4,420 square feet with a total area of 26,520. We have a rent of $1.89 for the basement and $5.40 for all the other spaces. Because it's a loft warehouse, it has a high vacancy of 20%. Utilizing 3% expenses, 425 shortfall. We have a net operating income of 76,548. Due to the size of the building, it's much larger than the other properties that we looked at this afternoon. And because of the age of the building, it has a much higher cap rate of 8.4%, which is how we come up with $911,000. On the information that hasn't been shown, but I'm under oath, it is if we were off base with regards to the valuation for our property, I would have gladly have made a recommendation or to do a 15-1 on this property if I was wrong. Moving forward for page 14, it's a challenge to get comparables for these type of properties. So what we've done is I've sort of broken this down into two different areas with regards to it. So the first group of comparables includes just smaller spaces that would just take a part of the footprint. So those are on Wall, McDermott, and Arthur Street. All newer leases, ranging in a square foot area between 4,000 and 6,000 square feet. These building has lower wall heights, 13 to 14. The subject property is 10, if I recall properly. And the effective year builds are, they're older buildings. The range here is from 746 that we have in our system to 1662. Then what I've done here is I've also included other older buildings that have larger areas, all on Aaron and Wellington Street. It's a challenge to get rents for loft warehouses because there's a lot of gross rents in place. So that's the challenge that we have. Some of these are older leases; they're all 10 years. And in question, they're between 19,000 and 33,000 square feet. Wall height is 12 or 13 feet. They're older in vintage, and they have rents that range from $284 to $5.38. We've discussed the cap rate information, and I am open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Story, questions?
Yes, I have a number of questions. Mr. Froelich, I'm sorry, you said that you've visited this property or you've inspected it?
I have been in this building, yes.
Okay. Have you were you there as an assessor or were you attending the auctions? And I ask for a specific reason.
Well, we have pictures. I was there as a member of Joe Public. I wasn't there on professional duties.
Yep.
But my peers have been in this building. We
Yep.
have pictures on file. We have notes on file.
Right.
And I think the sales listing pretty much gives us a good overall indication of the type of property this is.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, but first, this is all modeled, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, try to be delicate here, but would you agree with me that the 200 block of Stanley is a very challenging location? Is that fair?
Most downtown locations are challenging these days with regards to the crystal meth
Well,
prices.
okay, but this is on Stanley Street. This is a little different. This is like equivalent to, Fountain and Henry. Is that your understanding of this area?
I'm very mindful of the location, sir.
Okay, good. And sorry, you'd mentioned that you think that the effective age ought to change. Why is that?
With regards to the infrastructure being stated in the sales listing.
Okay, you
Well,
realize the sales listing is
So
of
the
course
question I ask is, does this property have knob and tube wiring? I don't believe so. That would change it.
Oh,
And
I
when
see.
it says that there's a new forced air gas furnaces on all main floors, that would change the effective age.
Okay, and is
This
the
building's no
facade
longer a 115-year-old building, Mr. Story.
okay? Well, it's a 120-year-old building, and the foundation is indeed 120 years old, is it not?
That would be the case, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, when the city applies, let's say a 20% vacancy to these loft warehouses, is it because the measurement standard comes from the exterior of the building based on BOMA, and there's a loss of space, and then if the property has been reconfigured, is that what gives rise
There's
to
a
that
lot of
20%?
considerations that go into the
Okay.
20% vacancy.
Okay, and now I'm looking at the sales listing. You're aware, of course, that this property's been for sale for over 2 years, correct?
Also, I could have used it in my brief. I could have showed the sale price. I was not aware of that. If it has been for 2 years, that would have been before the reference date, would it not be?
They would be before, they would be relevant to our
So
discussion.
it was
It's
on
been for sale for
sale
years.
on March 31st, 2025, correct?
Yeah, it's been for sale for, I
Okay,
believe,
thank
2.5 years.
I did not know that. Thank you, Jared.
Oh, you're welcome. And to be clear, and I know that you've been looking at the asking price, but the asking price has not been achieved, to be fair, correct?
No, but if it's
Right.
been listed for 2 years, why haven't they dropped the asking price is a question that I would ask.
Sure. Okay, and to be very fair, what you've included here is a warehouse redevelopment opportunity. When you see redevelopment opportunity, does that indicate to you that this property is indeed at the end of its useful economic life?
It all
That what a
depends
redevelopment is?
It all depends on the person who purchases the property.
Okay, and that sales listing that you're looking at, that includes 2 buildings, and we're dealing with 1, correct?
Well, it's one roll number that we have here, right?
No,
So
no, it is not. It is 2 roll number. In fact, it's 4 roll numbers.
Well,
It's the
okay,
lanes
so the
and
sale, okay, so what we're looking at, Mr. Story, is
Yeah.
we are looking at, just give me one sec here.
261,
261
right?
is 261 is one building here. And
Yeah.
is the sales listing 2 buildings? Does it also include 263?
Well, look at the size. Look at the 46,000 square feet. Look at the listing. It says 261 and 263 Stanley. That's 2 buildings joined together. And we're dealing with effectively half of it, correct?
Give me one sec here.
Sure.
Yes, you're 100% correct.
Right. Okay, good. Now let's move on. Okay. So your understanding then, now with that new information, this is the building on the right, correct?
Which one?
On the right-hand side of your marketing circular, where the main door is on the right, that's 261, correct?
That's 261, correct, yes.
Okay, and that has very limited loading access. Are you aware of that?
I haven't inspected the behind the property. There is a back lane,
Okay.
so I can't comment on that.
Well, I can tell you, I've loaded furniture from the auctions in there, and it's a pretty tough. It's pretty tough to navigate. Now on page 7, this sales listing indicates that this is one economic unit comprising the 2 buildings, as well as that laneway off of Alexander, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, good, perfect. We have the floor plans. Now okay, you have a number of different tenancies here. Should this not all be one tenancy under 26,520 feet?
This is how we did it at the time. And what you're saying, Mr. Story, in fairness,
Yeah.
I would have, so I obviously made an error here.
Okay.
You know what I mean? If you would have reached out and told me about this error, then maybe I could have been closer to your value. But the point is, the reason why, and because this property's been owner occupied for so long, I don't know the history of the property.
Okay.
And I don't know if 263 also has, if they're joining it and that's a part of the one footprint, because I'm guessing
They're joined and they're virtually identical. Yeah, but we could, if you'd like, when the next one comes up, we can certainly walk you through it and you can get a sense of it if you'd like.
Yeah, okay.
Have you been in the basement?
No, but I think we have pictures of the basement that I didn't include in our briefs.
Okay. In terms, now this is my first year doing this property. I know the cap rates for some of these were well north of, they were in the high 9s. They had previously been in the 9/8 or so. Has this cap rate decompressed in your model cycle over cycle? Has it gone from a high 9 to a mid 8?
That may be the case. I
Okay.
don't have the 2025 valuation in
Okay.
front of me.
And just to be
But our cap rates did compress a little bit, yes.
okay. Is there any indicator in our market that there's any appetite whatsoever for multi-level heritage era storage, loft storage buildings?
I think that's reflective in our cap rate.
Okay. All right. Now I'm looking at your rents. Can we agree that this is a building that ought to be applied at what I'll call a simple storage rent? Is that fair?
Yeah, it's a unique structure.
Right. So the retailer who sells board games and that sort of thing on Wall Street at $13.50 a foot, that would not be in the conversation, right?
It's the same challenges you have with regards to getting rent as well, Mr. Story.
Yeah, and that one on McDermott, that's a prime corner of the Exchange District. I believe that's a cannabis retailer. Is that your
That's
understanding?
correct, yep.
Yeah. Okay. And then 70 Arthur, that's a beautiful building that's been maintained. That's predominantly office and smaller spaces. Is that your understanding as well?
Yep.
Okay, that's fine.
But in fairness, Mr. Story, the rents
Uh-huh.
that are on those are significantly higher than
Yep.
what we have here, right? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
those
well,
are
I'm
higher
just
rents and
suggesting
we're
that they're
using
not at all
$5.40.
comparable.
So,
Yeah,
it's not like we're being super aggressive with our rents here.
no, but what you've presented here, they range from 284 to 1662.
Yeah.
That's a pretty wide range, but I don't disagree with your comp on Wellington. It's from 1921. It looks like simple storage. It's 284. So that's fine. I just wanted to point out those ones that are north of $10
Yeah,
that seem
and the challenge is so often with loft warehouses, and maybe the panel members do or don't know this, they're mostly gross rents.
absolutely.
And so they're so hard because they're so hard
Yeah,
older
they get about
buildings. It's a challenge.
$1.50, $2 a foot, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, those are my questions, Mr. Froelich. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Story. Mr. Purvis, do you have questions for Mr. Froelich?
I have one. I just want to go back up and scroll up a bit here. I think it's been answered by this whole that there's two buildings, there's two roll numbers. Because the square footage that you got for the rent numbers, I'm just trying to find what page we're on. Oh shoot, anyway, I just closed it up. My computer decided I was scrolling too quickly. But you've got the fifth floor as being the same square footage as floors 1 through like all the others. But on the floor plans that are in the listing, it distinctly shows that the fifth floor is only half the size of the other floors. Is that the distinction? Like, is
Probably, without being in it, because when I look at what we've presented here as a model, and see, here's the challenge that we have with regards to the valuation of this property, right? So the footprint for 261 Stanley is 5,000 square feet, and we have a leasable area of 4,420 square feet. So in
Okay.
terms of so that's what we have here. And so with regards to the difference on the fifth floor, we all have them, as being the same.
so
So
261?
maybe that picture is 263.
Because if we look on page 13, you've got the 4,420 square feet per floor, basement all the way up to the fifth. But if you go up to the listing, page 10, they show that fifth floor plan that it's only half.
Yep.
So
So
on page 9, for example, I guess that's the fourth floors 2 to 4. So those would actually be more than the 4,420 when it's the whole both buildings. Is that?
I'm guessing so.
I'm just trying to figure out why
I'm not 100% sure. Maybe Mr. Story can provide more insight into that, because all I know is that our leasable areas are the same for both Mr. Story and us. We both have 26,520.
I mean, I can ask Mr. Story and he makes it.
Yeah, I think that's
I can tell you, Mr. Purvis, one of the buildings has 5 stories and one has 4.
Okay.
If you look at the photo, and if you inspect the property, Mr. Froelich, and I'd like you to come out and see it. you see that immediately. One of the building that we're dealing with now, Mr. Purvis, if you look at the assessor's marketing circular on page 3, the building on the far right is what we're dealing with now. That's the 5 stories. And then you can just see that it's 4 stories next door at the adjoined building. That's what's leading to that differential.
Okay, so that side of the building is 4,420 square feet. On that side, the 4-story building would be another.
Yeah, so we're only dealing with the 5-story building.
Okay.
And there's a separate appeal for 263 that will come later. This property, for whatever reason, it is all completely joined. It's once you're in the building, it's virtually impossible to tell if you're in 261 or 263. It's all one unit. But the building that we're dealing with today is only the one on the far right that comprises those 5 stories. That's what's happening here.
Okay, because yeah, I was just trying to sort out, Mr. Froelich, the North Atlas listing distinctly shows the 5th floor is only on one half of this building. It goes to 5, but the square footage for all 5 floors and basement are the same. But it's 2 buildings as one building.
Yeah, but we're only looking at one building here right now.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I was looking for, some clarification.
And you know what? And in fairness, I was confused as well, right? The time horizons to do appeals at this time of year, I had 3. I don't have Mr. Story's workload, but I don't put Mr. Story's hours in. I had 3 dockets in 18 days. That's a lot for me. I'm not as efficient as Mr. Story.
They
Give you some love there, Jared.
Any other questions, Mr. Purvis?
That's my question. I was just looking for that clarification because the floor plans that were attached with the North Atlas listing didn't really line up with those numbers, but now it makes sense. That's my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kraus, questions?
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. This is just a quick question. Is this a historically designated property, Mr. Froelich?
I'm assuming so, but I don't know for a fact. Maybe Mr. Story has insight into that.
Okay, I'll wait for his
Yeah,
presentation.
I really don't know. I can't comment.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Story.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so again, we are at 261 Stanley. I have visited this property many times in some capacities as a member of Joe Public, as Mr. Froelich mentioned, but also as a valuation professional working on the assessment. So I did visit it and walk through the entirety of the building from the basement to the top floor for our appeals today and for the appeal that will follow at 263. So this property is indeed unique in that it comprises of 5 roll numbers. So there is 261 Stanley, which we're dealing with today. It's the 5-story building. And as we mentioned from Mr. Purvis's question, there's 263 Stanley as well, which is not under appeal today, but which will be heard later on. Hope to get the assessor in there to have a look. And then there are 3 laneways off of Alexander that are also they're considered in the sales offering, and they are separately assessed. So following the exact same logic that we used in the Johnson appeal, we will ask that those laneways be deducted so as to not doubly tax the owner. In this case, they're relatively small. The 3 of them equate to, I believe, $50,000. So that will explain the adjustment that we make once we get there. Okay, so this one I didn't do on August 7th. I did it the week before on July 31st. That is the date that I inspected the property. But as I mentioned, I've been there many, many times. The property has been listed for sale with no interest, let's say, or certainly no sale. So it is a challenge. The location is extremely difficult, as you can imagine, and certainly, the inner city and surrounding areas have their challenges. But I would suggest to you that Stanley Street is unique, and that is that frustration has certainly been expressed to me by the owner. Madam Chair, you'd asked about heritage. This property is not currently applied a heritage designation. We have not made an adjustment on that basis. However, there is some concern that that the Heritage Department will potentially approach to have this property listed, which is not, the owner would not support that. That effectively the heritage designation creates a situation where all permitting work needs to go through a separate channel of PP&D, and ultimately it becomes more costly as the vendors and suppliers that you're permitted to use are limited and must be approved. So ultimately that becomes a situation where there's greater resources are required. It's a time and money situation, and so we haven't applied an adjustment there, but that's not to say that that might not happen in the future, and certainly would be a consideration of anyone purchasing the property. I've mentioned that we've applied what I'm going to call a simple storage rent. I've used $4. I think that's very optimistic. I think Mr. Froelic's rent of $2.85 makes more sense, but I've used $4. I don't want to over adjust this property. I want to make sure that we're in the right, that we end up at the right value. So $4 is what we've applied to the entirety of the leasable area. I do a number of these downtown heritage, pre-World War I loft warehouses, and we typically see cap rates between 9 and 9.9. In this case, I've used 9%. I think that's reasonable. Obviously, higher risk requires greater reward, so a cap rate of 9% for an asset that is indeed built before World War I makes sense. We have to consider the location. We have to consider the conditions. So ultimately, 9% is on the low end of what we would apply, but in discussions with the owner, the value that we're coming to for this portion of the building makes sense. So notwithstanding the fact that there's an argument that it ought to be slightly higher, I think on balance, 9% makes sense. So based, and our 20% vacancy, I mean, that could be 25. It is basically largely vacant. I don't know that some of these spaces are capable of occupancy beyond simple storage. And Mr. Froelich made a comment that these simple storage rents are typically gross and they're hard to find comps, and that is true. And we would expect something like, call it $2 to $3 a foot net for this type of storage space. So I think I've been quite fair by applying $4 across the board. Ultimately, we come to a value then of 664,179. And again, I've adjusted out those 3 parcels that are under appeal. And as per my comments on the Johnson appeal, we will withdraw those, provided that they are deducted from the main holding, so as to ensure the owner is not doubly taxed. So when we make that negative adjustment to the 664,179, we come to an estimated or indicated market value of $614,000. I think that's very fair. And again, that is for roughly half of this building. July 31st was my last inspection, as noted. My photos are included. I won't go through all of them. They are many. I have the elevator, that vintage heritage freight elevator that was Mr. Froelich alluded to in the sales mailer. And we've walked through the entirety of the property. You can see on page 35, that's the basement. I would not, frankly, I don't think it should be included on the record as accessible, but there it is. And then you can see the quality of the interior. So it is roughly what you'd expect from a turn of the 20th century loft warehouse, largely vacant, some space being leased for estates to basically for simple storage. There are some floors that are completely vacant. That is all here for you in my photos. Just want to see that I have the I think I included the record on page. Yes, okay, so on page 64, this is a bit convoluted, so I've tried to keep it clear, but you can see directly behind 261. So 261 and 263 are the 2 buildings that are side by side. 261 is highlighted at that $911,000, and the rolls directly behind it are assessed at 20,000, 20,000, and 10,000. I've tried to indicate them with arrows, and I've included a Google Maps photo of that laneway. So that is indeed how you access the back of the building. And then I've included on my page 66 the ownership record for the main holding. And then I've showed you that the numbered company is also the owner of the associated rolls. I've also showed you that they're vacant industrial and they're assessed at 20,000, 20,000, and 10,000. So that is the support for our request to adjust those laneway rolls out from the main holding. Based on our submission, Madam Chair, based on my inspection of the property, based on my discussions with the owner, we feel that $614,000 is an optimistic view of this property. And we would request that the board adjust on that basis. So I'm very happy to take your questions, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Froelich, questions?
Good questions. On page 60 of your brief, Mr.
Yep.
Story, why is the owner have a $36,000 gross rent or rent in place when it's owner occupied?
Well, he's showing the rental income. So I think what he's probably showing us there, Mr. Froelich, is when he leases small amounts of space, like I said, to estates and whatnot, he does generate some income. He's showing you that he's generating $36,000 in gross income, leading to an upside down or negative NOI. So that's what he's drawing out of the property right now.
Okay, and so what do you know who the tenancy was, and is it just temporary?
As I said, so these folks have been doing auctions and that sort of thing for some time, as you well know, having been there. But they also rent some small amount of storage to companies who effectively deal with estates. So it's a lot of household goods when people pass away, and if they don't have progeny, if they don't have family, then sometimes those goods go there and wait. Sometimes when folks don't have family and go to a assisted living facility, the bank or the public trust will rent a small amount of space to house those goods. But this is very, very basic stuff. This is simple storage.
And so the question is if for the appeal on the property at 263 Stanley, so will you be asking for a $50,000 reduction on that hearing?
Nope.
On November 12th?
We're only doing it on this one. That would be, we would never do that. And frankly, once they're deducted from the main holding, those other appeals will be withdrawn, and we won't. They won't have any application.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Kraus, do you have questions for Mr. Story?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Purvis?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions either. So, Mr. Froelich, your rebuttal evidence is noted with respect to the applicant's cap rate study, and Mr. Story, your questions on that are also noted. Summation, Mr. Froelich?
Just sort of like on this one and the other one. Yeah, so with regards to the sub property value for 261 Stanley, I made a mistake. I didn't realize it was both properties, just the workload. And so, you know, in fairness, I probably could have came closer to Mr. Story's value if I hadn't known that, but it's just, you see a sales listing and I wasn't thinking, I got all excited. So I do apologize. No, it's true though, right? And so I didn't make the connection. So I do apologize for that. And just moving forward in terms of the general overview of the process here, I just want to bring to the panel members with regards to the cap rate situation. When I see a difference of $2.5 million in a cap rate analysis when I have no documentation of a sale, I thought it was important for me to share that information with the board, which is already went through the due diligence of processing that. With regards to the overall nature of the hearing, I'd like to thank Mr. Story for his time and the panel members as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Froelich. Mr. Story, summation?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for hearing our submissions today. I very much appreciate it. I just want to draw the panel's attention to the fact that we have inspected each of the properties on this docket. We've performed a site-specific review. We've provided you with a standalone capitalization rate study. Every input that we've provided in each of these assessments is backed by our research, and you have everything laid bare to review. That being said, the onus is on the assessor. The assessor has not provided any information regarding how their capitalization rates are derived. We have some information around rents, but we have no information around vacancy, shortfall, expenses. So based on what we've seen here today, I would request that the board give our submissions weighted consideration based on the fact that we have indeed performed site-specific reviews of each of the properties, and we've backed our conclusions that are all very consistent with appropriate documentation. So I want to leave you with that, and once again, I thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Mr. Froelich and Mr. Story, for your thorough presentations today. We appreciate them and like to wish you a good afternoon. And with that, we've now heard all items scheduled and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Mission accomplished. I thought for sure I would be past 4:30, but then we had to do Krista solid.
There you go. 8
Cheers. Bye-bye,
minutes
guys.
to spare.
Have
All
a good
right.
one. Yeah.
All right.